You've made it to the midway point of the week. Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Fan Morning Show, along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton. I'm Jeff Rickard. Thanks so much for being here. And it's just that time of year. There's something going on every night. If you didn't like Major League Baseball playoffs last night, you certainly had NBA preseason. You had opening night for guys like me in the National Hockey League, which was a lot of fun. It just rolls on and on and on. But I can't believe, I keep saying this all week long, but Kevin Bowen, I can't believe we're watching Pacers basketball already.
Indeed, yes. And you watched an entertaining game, I guess, for as entertaining as preseason basketball can be last night. So I enjoyed it. Saw the starters play about a half, and Minnesota played their frontline guys. Good effort, I would say, from the Pacers starting unit. And then I fell asleep right as the game was going into overtime.
James White, I'm just worried, though. Look, it's one preseason game. I'm not freaking out about it. But I thought the rotation of the several big men right now is like, it's first preseason game, so I'm not expecting too much. But a lot of turnovers for those guys last night. That worried me a little bit, but that could be just, getting used to everybody and getting used to your role and everything. But I just worry, are we going to have a major downgrade from what Miles Turner was providing, even if you have three guys to try and pick up the slack?
Yeah, I think they're worse at center without Miles Turner. I've made that very clear since he left. Now, we understand the circumstances in which he departed and joined the Bucks, and so it's not all on, one side or the other. However, I liked what I saw from Jay Huff in particular, him being the newest guy with this team, and he had a couple nice plays there, particularly in the second half. He had a nice pass off a spin move to Johnny Furphy. But I think the big news coming out of last night is the injury front. You had T.J. McConnell leave the game with an injury, and then you also had DeLon Wright get just crushed.
Ooh, that
on
hurt.
I can't even say it's a loose ball. He was dribbling the ball and basically got tackled like you would see some of the Colts players deliver a hit on Sundays, and so that was a bit scary. He did post a story on Instagram afterwards and shared the clip from Friday, the movie, and you got knocked the F out, and it was like, yeah. So hopefully he's got a sense of humor and he's feeling better, but that was scary. And so already you're down a couple of point guards this early in the preseason, and you just wonder how long those injuries will linger.
Yeah, hammies always worry you, especially very early on in camp, and that's what looked like T.J. McConnell was grabbing for right there. But Kevin, go back to that, to the injury to DeLon. It not only banged heads with the guy, but then it looked like when he fell, he banged his head on the other side on the floor.
Yeah,
that hurt, man.
Quite the prize fight look as he was walking off the floor last night. So, point guard depth was obviously a question entering the year, and boy, it was so vintage McConnell in the sense of how he got hurt. He's picking up Mike Conley full court. Next thing you know, he's motioning to the bench, and he's got to commit a foul. So we've seen it with the Colts. Hamstrings can obviously be tricky. The Pacers' regular season opens up 2 weeks from tomorrow. And right now, your point guard depth is looking like Quentin Jackson and Ray J. Dennis for the time being.
Well, we'll keep an eye on all that. They play again on Saturday night, and we'll be talking about last night's game quite a bit this morning.
How come overtime NBA preseason go overtime, but the NFL overtime, they're like, that's one and we're done. We're not finding a winner.
Probably just because it's the physicality.
Yeah, just so physical.
No.
But then go back to what we were just talking about, though, too. That looked like a football play.
Yeah, which is why it shouldn't happen again. But I hear you, Mark, but I think that's probably the biggest reason. I ask this question every year.
Next bucket wins, Mark? Is
but
that what you want to hear?
I still think that, too, though. Yes, to your point, both of you guys, I think preseason overtime in the NBA should be sudden death.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's either you make 2 free throws or next basket wins.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah. That works for me.
Like, nobody wants to see this. And then shout out to Rick Carlisle coaching as coaches should.
Oh, boy.
But the reviews and the challenges towards the end, I was like, all right, wrap this up.
Rick's ready to go. He got a technical and two appeals last night. He was coaching last night, man.
Yep, he's back in mid-season form.
You wore the right T-shirt yesterday, Kevin.
The Plot Rickens.
The Plot Rickens. So 135-134. The Pacers did get the preseason win last night. The one thing they did really well in that first half, they were shooting the heck out of the basketball from three-point range, James Boyd. I mean, it just kept splashing down.
Absolutely. It was a lot of good things, a lot of things you expect to be kind of off-kilter without Tyrese Halliburton there. Good to see him on the sidelines yesterday. Even got another Johnny Furphy dunk that was a highlight worthy. I think that he's becoming one of the better in-game dunkers from what I've seen over the last year or so. And then I guess pivoting a bit to the Colts, we had some news there, Kevin. I know you're more familiar with this player than I am, but they did sign a new kicker.
Yeah, Michael Badgley. It doesn't happen very often where you get familiarity with a in-season kicker signing, but that's what the Colts have gotten here with Badgley. So He actually was originally an undrafted free agent back in 2018, the second to last year of Adam Vinatieri. And they did this with Vinatieri's final, handful of seasons. They'd bring in a young undrafted kicker. He'd kick, a couple preseason games, and then he obviously would be cut. And then also, Badgley has worked with Rigoberto Sanchez and Luke Rhodes specifically, which, again, that is something pretty unique and I would guess pretty attractive to the Colts wanting to, have some sort of familiarity. 2021, when Hot Rod Rodrigo Blankenship was struggling and then went on injured reserve with a hip injury, it was Badgley who kicked, I want to say it was 12 games for the Colts.
Yeah.
During that 21 season. And I would say kicked fairly well from what I remember. So again, he has worked with Rhodes and Sanchez. He also began his NFL career after that first offseason here in Indy with the Chargers when Shane Steichen was there as the OC. So again, there are a lot of little connections to Badgley. I would say the question marks, and again, to be fair, you would have question marks about any midseason kicker signing, would be he hasn't kicked in an NFL game in over 600 days. A torn hamstring last year was what put him on injured reserve. And this kind of falls back probably into the Rodrigo Blankenship pool of what about longer distances? He has really struggled from north of 50 yards in his career.
He's 5 of 13, 50 or more.
So, we're talking 35, 40% from north of 50 yards. So how does that obviously impact the Colts? How does that impact Shane Steichen's play calling? All of those things. But yes, Michael Badgley to the 53-man roster won a 8-man kicker. 8 men kicking field goals seems like a lot in one day. Do you think Rigoberto Sanchez and Luke Rhodes have to do all of that?
I'm not sure. I actually would like to get some inside information.
Each man
on this.
gets 10 kicks, 80 field goals that we're going to chart here on the practice field. If I'm Luke Rhodes, I'm thinking I'm working harder on a Tuesday than I do on a Sunday.
Chris Ballard over there with his little checklist, like, I don't know about this guy, man.
It's still good work if you can get it. Let's be honest.
It is, but as Kevin said, you sign a kicker at this point in the year, you just hope that, you can kind of stay afloat. I guess the good thing is that the Colts offense has been so high scoring and high powered that you really haven't had to settle for many longer kicks or really many kicks at all. So if they keep that up, that's a good thing. But yeah, still heart goes out to Spencer Schrader, who we didn't talk to him, but we had a chance to, hear from Shane Steichen a couple of days ago. And I'm sure we'll hear from some teammates tomorrow or today, actually, when we talk to them. But yeah, it's like the NFL, man. Got to keep moving on.
Do we know how many guys they actually brought in, or do they just kind of make the announcement of who they're signing at the end of the day?
It was 8. Yeah,
8.
They have a transactions log that we can check throughout the day, and at the end of the day, it looked like, I counted it up, 8 kickers. So that's what Kevin was just saying. They brought in 8, and so that's a lot of kicking.
I was just wondering, anybody you had really heard of and thought, oh, that'd be interesting.
I would have to go through the list again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that well versed in kickers. I will.
Dustin
admit.
Hopkins was probably the most veteran name on the list. I had forgotten about Josh Lambo. He was a kicker that they brought in. He actually kicked very well a few years ago and has been retired. My favorite one, they brought in the thicker kicker. You guys recall
Mavis,
the thicker kicker from Missouri?
Mavis?
The pride of Warsaw, Indiana. Stand-up Warsaw Tigers right there. So that was the one that caught my eye. Lucas Haversick, who they had in a couple years ago as well. So there were a few names. Justin Tucker, for those asking. I'm trying to think. Rodrigo Blankenship was not on that 8-man list for those that were asking. And I know we mentioned Young Ho Koo. He is still in the Giants practice squad. So for them to have brought him here, they couldn't have done the tryout. They would have had to just sign him straight up to the 53-man roster, which they could have done. They did that with the Cowboys linebacker a few weeks back, but they elected not to do that.
I wish they would have, just so you had to keep saying his name.
Young Wei, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not Young Ho.
No. You like saying it the other way, though.
Well, phonetically, I mean, I my education ain't great, Mark.
Aren't your parents teachers?
Well, nothing against them. It's just
Like your whole life was education. You probably learned a little quicker than others.
blame student, not teacher here. Let me be
fair
very
enough,
clear
fair
on
enough.
this.
I'm just making sure that the Bowens aren't getting any crow here because of their son.
None. I'm very grateful to grow up in a house of educators.
Would they like to see a ripped Adam Vinatieri trot out there one more time?
He is ripped.
Give me the age. Are we at 51?
He's got to be close.
Let's
52
see.
for Adam Vinatieri?
There's no way. Is he 50? 52?
No, he was
53.
He was what? Mid to late 40s when he gave it up.
You
That's
imagine? Yeah.
He is huge.
Vinny, you
now.
go work out the offensive line today. That's what it would look like for him. So, yes, Michael Badgley, the money badger, right? He has kicked in several playoff games. So again, that's something that's not necessarily a guarantee you find with these in-season signings. So, all things considered, you're gonna have warts on anybody.
Exactly.
You sign mid-season, but I look at Michael Badgley's resume and think to myself, this makes some sense.
Also, are you ever really retired as a kicker?
Probably not.
Because I'm like, these guys like, okay, I don't really want to go through training camp, all this stuff, but hey, I get a call. I might just hop off the couch and see what I can do.
Those NFL checks still cash, right?
Even the practice squad checks are pretty nice.
We're going to be saying that about Joe Flacco in about 5 years.
I couldn't believe that move. We'll get into that. I figured throughout the show at some point. But yeah, trading for him, interesting.
We'll tell you all about all those things coming up in just a minute, including a recap of some pretty exciting, fun baseball games to watch yesterday as well. It's all coming up next. Big show later on today. We're going to be talking to Stephen Holder, find out more about the Colts, what they plan on doing this week as they get ready for another home game, this time against the Cardinals. We'll tell you all about it next as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome into the Fan Morning Show. I'll tell you that there is basketball in the air here in Indiana. The first preseason game of the year last night in Minnesota. Pacers with a 135-134 overtime win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, James Boyd. They had led by 24 points in the second half, and all of a sudden, things started to fall apart. They hang on to win at the end of overtime, 135-134. What was your big takeaway from the first preseason game?
Yeah, besides the injuries to T.J. McConnell and DeLon Wright, and that's certainly concerning considering your point guard depth, I did like the ball movement. I did like seeing the three-center sort of rotation there, and at the same time, you just wonder, how quickly it'll take some of those guys to sort of click. Seeing Andrew Nembhard take on a different role was interesting as well. So baby steps early on, some growing pains, a lot of turnovers, but kind of what I would expect from a preseason opener.
Anything for you, KB?
Yeah, they got to be pleased with what the starters did. I mean, Minnesota played their frontline guys, and, it's kind of funny. The first possession almost ended in a shot clock violation. I'm thinking to myself, oh, boy, the basketball gods saying, Tyrese Halliburton's in street clothes now. But no, the starting unit was very, very solid after that. And I'll echo what James said earlier. I liked what Jay Huff showed. I was a little surprised Tony Bradley was the second center into the game. Isaiah Jackson did get into some foul trouble, but on both ends, I'd like to see a little bit more of Jay Huff here early on. And unfortunately, the injuries. The one position right now that probably can't afford injuries is point guard, and you had a couple to the depth last night.
Yeah, and certainly with T.J. McConnell, you're worried about that hamstring and how that might affect him throughout the rest of preseason. You want to make sure he's ready to go for the regular season. Also last night, Ray J. Dennis had 16 points to lead the way. Pascal Siakam had 14. Aaron Nesmith and Johnny Furphy each had 12. They will play the Thunder on Saturday night for their second preseason game. National Football League, the Indianapolis Colts have a brand new kicker, Kevin Bowen. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Michael Badgley. He's kicked for about 7-8 years in the league. He actually is a former Colt, kicked when Rodrigo Blankenship had his struggles back in 2021, kicked a dozen games here. So, saying this a little bit earlier, but it's pretty unique in the NFL to find a kicker mid-season and have, I would say, a decent amount of familiarity with him. He actually has kicked with the operation he'll have on Sunday. Luke Rhodes snapping, Rigoberto Sanchez holding. That's not a given, especially 4 years ago is when that took place. So originally an undrafted free agent out of the U for the Colts, and kicked in playoff games before. Again, you definitely worry about length in terms of 50-yard plus with him. Not a very good percentage at all. And where is he at? Coming off the torn hamstring. He did not kick in the NFL last season, January 2024. The last time he has kicked there. Signed to the 53-man roster. So he is going to be your kicker here coming up on Sunday and probably for the rest of the season.
All right, Colts get back at practice later on today over at West 56. Two of the holdover injuries we're keeping an eye on, James Boyd.
Well, I think one, is Alec Pierce going to practice today? It's probably the big one, just considering he missed the last 2 weeks due to concussion. You want an update on Mike Hilton and Grover Stewart? It sounds like Mike Hilton will actually be out a while. I'm sorry. He got put on IR yesterday. So you're down another cornerback. He's going to be out for at least 4 games. And from what I was able to glean, it sounds like they're hoping it isn't a season-ending shoulder injury. However, it all depends on how he responds to treatment. So he'll be out for quite some time. And then on top of that, I think this is the first week that let me back up. Grover Stewart is another one to keep an eye on with the biceps. Is he out there at practice? Is he limited anyway? Or is he fine, after kind of that scare on Sunday? And then lastly, Jalen Jones, I believe, is eligible to come back from IR. Will he get the practice window reopened for him to return to play? Because that will give you a boost in your cornerback room.
All right, we'll also tell you in the National Football League there was a big trade yesterday. Cleveland Browns have traded quarterback Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals, who've given up on the Jake Browning experiment. They've lost Joe Burrow for what they think is the season, and they got to figure something out, and Browning wasn't working, Kevin. So do what everybody else around this region does. Try Joe Flacco.
I love it. And I maybe I missed something. Joe Burrow is done for the year?
No, I said that he possibly could be.
Okay.
He's not done for the year, but to Jeff's point, if you continue to lose, he will be done for the year.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this thought is, hey, can you stay above water, whatever, get to, 5-7, something like that, and then Burrow returns for the final few weeks of the season, and then, could you try and backdoor your way into the AFC playoffs here? So I'm all for it. This is entertaining as hell. Sign me up for it. Joe Flacco didn't appear to be very good in Cleveland, but he wasn't thrown to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins either. So We'll see how that looks in Cincinnati. So I'm all for this. This is just Joe Flacco is the he's one that gets passed around a lot. That's probably the nicest way I can say it.
Mark's eyes just lit
Easy.
up right there.
There are a couple other phrases that was going through my head. I didn't feel like those were very
Man.
good, so I just went with that one.
Oh man!
Am I wrong?
No.
Like Austin Powers said, the town bicycle, everyone's had a ride.
That's a little bit more eloquent, a little bit more vivid imagery there. Yeah, I think that would apply here, Mark.
Mark, let's talk some Major League Baseball. What do you
Sure.
say? We'll move on here. Pretty good games last night. Seattle Mariners finished off the Detroit Tigers 8-4. I'm sorry, they lead that series 2-1. It felt like they're about to finish them off because the big dumper goes yard again. Cal Raleigh just will not stop hitting home runs, Mark Dykton. It's fun to watch.
He's been laying them out there.
Yeah, they're up 2-1 there. Meanwhile, the Toronto Blue Jays looked like they might finish off the Yankees. Got out to a quick 6-1 lead, but in the bottom of the fourth, a 3-run home run by Aaron Judge put the Yankees back into the game. They add 3 more runs later on. They win by a score of 9-6, and so they stay alive. The Toronto Blue Jays lead that series by a count of 2-1. Everybody plays later on today. It will start at 3:08 when the Mariners take on the Tigers in Detroit. At 5:08, there's a baseball game in Chicago today, Mark Dykton.
I'll be watching.
It'll be the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. Chance for the Cubs to keep their season alive and win at home. Later on at 7:08, the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees play Game 4 of their series. And then the Phillies and Dodgers, after a day off yesterday, get back underway at 9:08 tonight. The Dodgers trying to close out the Phillies, and they play at Chavez Ravine tonight. That's Major League Baseball for you. Anything else you guys want to throw in as we get the morning started here?
Game 3 of the WNBA Finals tonight. Aces up 2-0. That series now shifting to Phoenix. Again, best of 7 now this year in the WNBA Finals. And looks like potentially a little rain out in Eugene coming up on Saturday. So we'll see how that could impact things for Oregon and Indiana. Obviously, the game itself speaks for itself when you look at the rankings in College Game Day. But I would venture to guess the winning quarterback, assuming that quarterback plays well, might just enter mid-October as your Heisman favorite with Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza. So big game from national eyes on it. And again, CBS 3:30, I think right around a touchdown underdog. Kurt Cignetti's Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Rain in the Pacific Northwest. I never would have guessed.
Shocking.
Yeah, they used to say, I did a couple of games up there in Eugene, and they'd always say it never rains on game day as the sprinkling rain was always falling down. That's just kind of how that worked. I mean, they named their duck puddles, for goodness sake.
I just want to see what Pat McAfee will jump off of on College Game Day.
Do you think Matt Conti's going to wear an Oregon Duck uniform for that game?
No, that was punishment.
One and done. Also, Purdue plays at 7:30 on Saturday night on the road at Minnesota, and Notre Dame will be at home to take on North Carolina State. Ranked number 16, even though they had those early losses, they are in position to rise right back up through the playoff ranks, Kevin.
Must keep winning, period.
That's all it has to do.
So
all
far,
right.
so good. Need to keep it going.
Yep. We can also tell you in high school football, the Indy Star statewide rankings, regardless of class, are out again. Brownsburg, number 1. New Pal, number 2. Carmel, 3rd. Crown Point is number 4. And the 5th ranked team right now would be Westfield. So we're getting late into the season, getting ready to go for Week 8, James Boyd.
Yeah, are these rankings official or is this
Nah,
is
this
from
is just
somewhere?
Indy Star, they have
out
different
Indy
folks from
Star.
around the state voting on this, and they do it regardless of state. And it's just kind of a fun way to keep talking
I
about
would
high
just
school football.
Double check, because I know people get all upset. Oh, in 1A we're actually number whatever. But yeah, good high school football, and we're getting to that football weather as well, which kind of reminds you
This morning, yeah.
of the stakes that will be coming up pretty here soon in about a month.
Yeah, it was a little what do they say? Sharp this morning, the
Crisp.
weather. Crisp, that's what I was looking for. Thank you very much. All right, coming up in just a moment, we'll talk a little bit more about Kurt Cignetti. Another big game on the road, this time 2 top 10 teams. We'll hear from both coaches as we continue in a moment on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Along with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Mark Dykton, I'm Jeff Rickard. It's been a lot of fun over the last 12, 18 months to watch college sports around here. So much going on. We had Indiana going to the college football playoff last year, and Curt Cignetti making a big splash as he gets here. Seems like every year now Matt Painter is reloading and ready to go deep into an NCAA tournament game. And I was reading over the weekend and really over the last couple of days, like so many expectations on Purdue this year. Like maybe Kevin Bowen, maybe this is the year for Matt Painter.
Yeah, actually was listening to him was on with John Rothstein, college basketball, frankly, just passionate human times a million when it comes to college basketball. And I thought Matt had an interesting comment. He was very candid saying, no, this is my best chance to win a national title. And, I don't know how many times you hear a coach say that in early October, but when he offered the why behind that, he pointed to depth. He thinks their second five is an NCAA tournament team. And basically he said, we could have an injury and still be in a position where I think we can make a run. Whereas you think about some of those teams, Hummel, obviously going down as the poster child of it. Even Isaac Haas in the tournament. Now, obviously, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn are probably some on that list that you
indispensable is the word
label
you
them
use.
as, yes, indispensable. Thank you, James Boyd. But they do have, in Matt's eyes, some real depth. And even in years past, it was kind of like, well, maybe Heidi, maybe Colvin, and then you feel like it really drops off. So I just thought that was some candor, which Matt Painter typically is, but that made some sense to me of like, yeah, they're starting five, and the returning of the big three of Braden and Lawyer and Trey Kaufman-Renn speaks for itself, but like some real depth that Purdue probably hasn't had as much of here in recent years.
It was another interesting, I saw a bunch of coaches, college basketball coaches were polled anonymously, James, about who they think will be the next coach to get that next title. And far and away, the two leading vote getters were Kelvin Sampson and Matt Painter. And a lot of people were just saying, like, man, I really hope it's Matt Painter. That guy is a great coach. He's a great human being, always has good rosters, always does things the right way. I hope he's the guy that gets it next.
Yeah, certainly, like Kevin said, they have a good shot to do it this year, but college basketball, kind of like, how the NFL is with football, or even in college football, it's one and done. You get to the tournament, man, and on any given day, you can go down or you could be advancing. So you feel confident about your team. You should, because you have Braden Smith, I believe, if not the best player in the country, certainly the best player in the Big Ten, and somebody who can lead this group. And as Kevin has said, pretty much all, since this came out, you have a chance to, since the schedule came out, you got a chance to play a Final Four here in Indianapolis, kind of in your own backyard. So could that be an opportunity for you to, then move further and try to get back to the national title game?
And Matt said, we're not going to hide from that with our team. Like, I'm going to address that with that team. And I don't know, maybe the fact that you have three dudes that have played, well over 100 games and started 100 games in the Big Ten, maybe that gives you comfort in that. But he's like, no. We have a mature group. We're going to point that out. And we feel like we've got the horses to, be there in April. So makes sense. But, anytime Matt Painter talks, I'm always all ears and listening to how he describes a team that I think will be one of the best, if not the best, in all of college basketball.
Is Braden Smith the best point guard they've ever had?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Pure point guard, yeah.
I mean, hell, he's one of the top.
Yeah.
I was going to say
3-4 players.
The short list of players, but I mean, he's
ever to put on a uniform.
Yeah, he's special, and I think that's the one thing that obviously most players are missing is that national championship.
All right, so speaking of college basketball, it returns to the Fan this winter, as we'll have Butler basketball on any night that doesn't feature the Indiana Pacers. If there's a conflict, then you'll be able to go to Fuego, which is our it's a blowtorchy big signal. It is a Spanish language radio station that we have here in the building. We'll tell you more about that and give you all the details as we go game to game.
Anchor describing Reggie Miller back in the 90s.
Butler is in Fuego. Yeah, so if they're not on the Fan, they're in Fuego.
God, well,
that's how that works.
Thad Matta would love for his team to be that, I would say, behind the arc this year.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. Now, college football, as we mentioned, huge game for Indiana. They're taking on the number 3 team in the country in Oregon this Saturday. They are the number 7 team in the country. And I know we had big games last year against Ohio State. I know that they played Oregon last year. I know that they had a college football playoff game. Where in that hierarchy would you rank the importance of this football game for Curt Cignetti and his team?
Well, no game against Oregon last year. This is the
Right.
first matchup
Thank you.
with Oregon. Yeah, I mean, from a regular season hype standpoint, I would probably even put it above Ohio State, because I think at the point of the season when Ohio State showed up on the schedule, I know that there was a lot of drama that played out, but you still could lose that game and get in. This is still early enough in the season to where, you have some ramifications with this game. Like, if you win it, you're now in position for a home game in the playoff easily, maybe even the Big Ten title here at Lucas Oil Stadium. So yeah, this one I don't know. This one I would put a little bit higher than the Ohio State game. Obviously, the playoff game against Notre Dame. Anytime you're in a one and done format, that kind of speaks for itself. And I'll go back to what I said earlier about the Heisman aspect to it. Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, any Heisman list you look at right now, they're two of the top 4 or 5 guys on it. So I would put that in there as well.
Sounds nuts. You're talking about the Heisman with an Indiana quarterback. Times have changed, but he's earned it. I mean, he's played really good football. They got a gutty win a couple weeks ago at Kinnick Stadium, beating Iowa, which is always a hard place to play. And I think you've seen a little bit of everything from this IU team so far. You saw the grittiness against the Hawkeyes, and then you saw the beatdown against Illinois, and unsatisfaction with all of it. With Coach Sig, it seems like he's never really going to relax until they probably hoist a trophy of some sort at the end of the year. But nevertheless, it should be a very good matchup. And I'm curious to see how that environment on the road is, because if this were, down in Bloomington, I might feel differently about the matchup. But that's a hard place to play, and certainly a huge game against a very good team. I mean, Oregon, Dan Lanning, I like what he does. He seems very intense. He's wired differently, so if you want to test, you got one coming on Saturday.
Let's be real. Even if they won the national championship, Sig would have a recruiting trip the very next day.
Probably. Maybe even right after the game. He'd fly right out. But we did find something that Curt Cignetti likes, and he seems to enjoy watching, and that seems to be Oregon on film at this point in time.
Great opponent, great team, a lot of great players, extremely well coached. Big, fast, athletic, physical, depth. Coach Lanning done a tremendous job recruiting, development, retention. He probably one of the most impressive young coaching phenoms to come around in a while, I would say. Haven't been in this game for a little bit. They're a great football team.
Apparently he likes him some Oregon Ducks right there. Pump
Yeah,
them up, build them up.
I don't think you really have to build them up. Have you seen what they've done the last couple of years? That is a great program, and similar to kind of how we were talking about with Purdue basketball, they're just looking for that national championship at this point. That's the one thing that they don't have. And so this could be their best shot to go try to win it this year.
And shout out to Westfield's Dylan Thieneman. For those that watched the Penn State game, had a huge interception in that game. He was at Purdue last year, transferred over to Oregon, not some highly ranked recruit by any means, and obviously had plenty of moments at Purdue, and now he's on even a bigger stage there for Oregon. So you don't think of many Indiana ties to the Oregon football program, but that's certainly one of them. He's done really well out there for that defense. And in general, Oregon's a relatively young team. Now, granted, they went to Happy Valley and handled that environment quite well.
Wide out.
And they are also coming off the bye week. Both teams coming off the bye here. And again, we'll see about the weather. Indiana has run the ball very well this season, but Cignetti pointed out, Oregon is a much bigger football team in the trenches. So does that favor a little bit more of Oregon? If it is inclement weather, that'll be something to keep an eye on.
All right, there's a great mutual admiration society going on there, because Dan Lanning at his press conference this week was throwing the flowers right back to Curt Cignetti.
This offense, when you watch it, it has an identity. You're going to see the same play ran a couple times. The window dressing might be different, but they know how to run this play. It's not about inventing new offense. It's about running it better than you and executing it better than you, and they do a really good job of that. And then they do enough of that to where you think, okay, this is what it's going to be, and then they throw a wrinkle in there, and it is different. So he's playing in an offense that clearly has an identity, and he's playing around really good players.
Like that, an offense that clearly has an identity. That's one coach looking at another coach's film, Kevin, and going, oh, I see what that philosophy is, and they do it well. But coaches like to see stuff like that.
Two very intense dudes, two dudes that if you were going to say the best coaches in college football right now, I don't think you get very far on the list before you're naming those two. So can't wait. 3:30, you'll get your Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson crew for this one. Again, CBS, Indiana, about a touchdown underdog. And again, we'll see just on the road. Like if there's, Cignetti has done wonders. He would even admit this is now the next question. Can we go on the road? High quality team. He pointed out in his press conference, he's like, I know everyone talks about us getting outplayed in the trenches against Ohio State and Notre Dame. He's like, we got beat up everywhere. We got outplayed at every position. So that's kind of the next question. It's like, you've proven yourself to be a legit, top 10, top 15 team. Now it's like, are you going up another tier? And I think Saturday is quite the test in that.
It's going to be a lot of fun on a college football Saturday. It's going to be a lot to watch. I mean, North Carolina State, don't play around with that football team. Notre Dame should win that, and I think they should win that fairly comfortably. But North Carolina State, they'll jump up and get a few teams here and there.
Boy, I can't lie and try to compare Notre Dame, NC State to Indiana, Oregon.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's entertaining football to be watched. That's all I'm saying.
Correct. And one game is probably infinitely more entertaining than the other.
He will not get excited about Notre Dame. I'm trying.
I mean,
I'm trying.
No,
I'm trying.
it's not that. He's going to watch the game.
I
He's a
am
fan.
much more excited
But
about Notre Dame
for
and
the
NC State.
masses,
I'm speaking to the audience here.
I'm just trying to give you a little Notre Dame platform.
Of the 100 people that are listening right now, 99 of them would rather watch Indiana and Oregon.
Absolutely.
And Ryan Bowen is the only one that is with me that would rather watch Notre Dame and NC State.
And I'm giving you and Ryan Bowen a little respect. That's all I'm saying.
Shout out to the great Ryan Bowen.
There we go. Oh, my goodness. Some guys, we'll switch over to the NFL now. It's the Fan Morning Show on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, I'm Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton on the other side, waiting for all of us to say something even remotely useful to him that could be taken out of context.
You guys have kept me busy this segment alone.
That's what we do.
Mark, clip that.
But a couple of things, two big stories I thought yesterday. The biggest one, of course, Joe Flacco getting traded by the Cleveland Browns to the Cincinnati Bengals. A last desperate attempt, James, for the Bengals to try and keep their season alive and at least give Joe Burrow some incentive to come back this year.
Yeah. Joe Flacco has not played good football this year at all. So I'm very curious to see how he looks behind a Bengals offensive line that is not good. He's 40 himself, so don't imagine much scrambling. So he's in a great position where he gets traded, and his job is just to throw it to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and, hopefully score some points. But, yeah, 2 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. He has not played good football, so I was a bit surprised to me they went after him. I wanted Jameis. I wanted Jameis throwing to T and Jamar.
Yeah, we got to get Jameis out of New York right now.
And I wanted the sermons afterwards and all the theatrics and all the speeches. Because Joe, I've seen this movie before. He's going to go, I'm serious, he's going to go over there to Cincinnati. He's going to throw the ball a ton, get a lot of yards, score some points, and then turn the ball over at a high rate. That's what he's done throughout his career
if he
for the
doesn't
last.
Get killed behind that offensive line.
Yeah, but that's what has happened. I don't know. People who are like, oh my gosh, they got Joe Flacco. That ain't changing nothing for them, to me.
That's a W. That's E1.
We got a month till the trade deadline.
I wanted that.
Some team will give us Jameis, right? We still have a month to go.
You'd hope so.
Some team will give us
Jameis is a comedian as far as I'm concerned, so give the comedian one more shot. Greatness doesn't happen very often. 30-30 he gave you.
If Daniel Jones suffered a season-ending injury tomorrow, would they try and get Jameis, or would they roll with Anthony Richardson?
Let's not put that juju out there. But
that was Kevin Bowen that said that, by the way. Let's just put that on record.
Yes. But I will say you would probably have to go out and get a better passer. Yes, I seriously would consider that.
Wouldn't you like to just have a camera in the quarterback room of the Giants where you have Jameis spouting off on whatever, Russell Wilson talking all kinds of
doing
craziness,
calisthenics
and then
while the
Jackson
speech is
Dart
going on?
just trying to learn his way? That would have been
They do have a unique quarterback room.
So is Jameis still the third stringer? Is he still the emergency QB there?
Yes, I believe so.
Now, with this trade, Shedeur Sanders becomes the backup
I was going to ask you
in
about
Cleveland.
Did you see they had a
So
reporter
we're
track him
one-
down at a car dealership? I guess he's doing a promo or something on his day off
No, I
yesterday.
did not see this.
And they
How'd
got
that
him.
go?
They got him at the end. He gave a very professional
That's
answers.
Big
but,
J journalism.
But yeah, I respected it. But I also think that it's so funny that you're doing all this for like the backup quarterback. I guess he's QB2. We'll see what happens. But
One play away.
yeah, you can be one play away for a long time in this league, though.
Speaking of quarterback injuries, we'll see about Kyler Murray today. Again, foot issue exiting that game with Tennessee. And there's 2 questions. One, is Kyler good enough to play? That's the obvious one coming up on Sunday. But also, 2, how effective is he? Is he Kyler the pocket passer? Or is he Kyler the dynamic dual threat guy? Because those are 2 very, very different situations. You put a 5'10 dude back there as a pocket passer, you think DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart are going to be batting some balls down? Or batting some balls up in the air for Latu to pick off? So I think that's a big, big storyline. I know the Colts have some injury questions for today at their first practice of the week, but I would argue Arizona's got the biggest one in regards to their quarterback. And yes, if Kyler Murray for some reason can't go or gets hurt in the game, as we saw on Sunday,
Jacoby Brissett.
Senor Brissett back inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. We get tribute video for Jacoby on Sunday.
Just a nice, really big ovation at the beginning, I think.
Just 30 QB sneaks.
Has an opposing quarterback ever banged the anvil before? Do we do that?
You know what?
I mean, if there's
The
anyone
way
that was ever
Mark's-
going to do it, Peyton.
Yeah.
Peyton in 2013 should have been that guy, right?
Yeah, the
I
way
love
that
it.
Mark's brain works is
Love
just
it.
elite. That
Bang the
right there is
anvil,
great.
then run out the tunnel. That'd be awesome. In full uniform? Come on now.
He already has the earpiece in as he's banging the anvil.
The green dot helmet.
I know, does Lara get like a 30-second interview with him right before he bangs the anvil?
Sure,
there?
why not?
Let's do that. I like it. I'm impressed with that. You guys see Odell Beckham Jr.? I didn't even know he was still trying to play football. Did you see he's accepted a 6-game suspension for PED use?
Yeah, I saw him on the Pivot podcast.
He's
with
accepted
Ryan
it as
Clark.
opposed to
I guess
declining it?
I guess appealing it is
Got it,
probably
okay.
what you would do. But yeah, I mean, he had a clip where he was talking about how he failed himself, wasn't as disciplined he was supposed to. And, sometimes when you have these incidents happen, I know when it happened with Grover Stewart, the Colts defensive tackle a couple years ago, he genuinely said, I didn't know that I violated the rules. And honestly, I think when it came out, Kevin, he took something that was like very close to the same name as something else that was legal or something of that nature. And so you could kind of see, okay, this is, or maybe I'm getting that mixed up actually with Bobby Portis, I want to say, for the Bucks, who had that happen to him in the NBA.
Sounds like
But nevertheless,
Mark Sanchez might
well.
might need to explore here.
But
in the next 24 hours.
I just don't understand the whole, he never really denied it. And then also what year is it? It's 2025. When was the 3-finger catch that he made? How many years ago
That's got
was
to be
that?
like 2018.
Yeah, so
17,
he's
something
no
like that.
longer that player. He's not close to that player. And honestly, I saw that and I was like, well, who cares? You're probably done playing football.
This is from Mark. We're talking about Kurt
Where am I now? Mo?
Kurt Signetti and Dan Lanning. Mark with a K here from Virginia. He goes, is the IU-Oregon game the game between the two coaches that every college football team would want? Now he throws in there, besides maybe Ohio State and Georgia, I would argue Notre Dame as well with Marcus Freeman, feels very comfortable with their situation. Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame. Probably the only 3 teams that wouldn't take Kurt Signetti or Dan Lanning, right?
I think Alabama's growing comfortable with Kalen DeBoer.
No,
after the last
I
month or
can't
so.
go there.
No,
Oh,
man.
no.
You think those first two games?
That is some
Absolutely
that
not.
is some premature
Yeah.
you know what right
Yeah,
there.
no
He's
chance.
he's a good football coach. I think he's going to be okay there. That's my thought. But
I think North Carolina's locked in on Bill Belichick for the long term. They might sign him to an
I
extension.
saw they canceled the Hulu special or whatever, and I'm like, man, I really want to watch that. Just crash.
I
and
know.
burn.
I was pissed when I saw that. I was
And
like,
they
man,
didn't they have the weird thing over the
really?
weekend where it was like they weren't going to post anything
about Drake May.
Patriots related until
Yeah.
they got some pressure from the public. Then it was like all of a sudden, a full day later, here's Drake May highlights, from a great win on Sunday night. So
It's a level of petty that I feel like James would be at, but not
yes,
too many other
but I'm
people.
like, for a man as accomplished as him, it's like, brother, he is.
Let it go.
Bill Belichick pettier than James Boyd.
yeah, they pulled the
Yeah.
plug on that Hulu
Well-
documentary too this week.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just said that.
Yeah,
just
I
said
know.
that.
All of it together. It's Bill Belichick. I can't see. I was talking to somebody there yesterday about how much money it would cost them to let him go. About $20 million, which I guess in today's age is not huge, but he could buy himself out for $1 million after this season.
But I can't really think of many other schools. I mean, you could. I don't know where else you would go. Texas was Sark. I think Dan Lanning and Kurt Signetti are kind of looked at. I mean, obviously ages, they're very, very different, and their backgrounds are very, very different. But I've watched a lot of Kurt Signetti press conferences here over the last couple of years. He ain't calling the opposing head coach a young coaching phenom.
Yeah.
And many of them. Phenom, that's a big old word. And Dan Lanning had a lot of praise as well. So another great angle this Saturday.
What about Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss?
I do like me some Lane, but still.
I liked how petty he is. That's somebody he leans into all of the college football antics. He leans into that. So I think he should always stay in college football. That guy is hilarious. And a good coach.
Here you go on the text line, Kevin, just for you. Chris says, let's go Irish. See, I'm getting all the Notre Dame people fired up today, Kevin. That's what I'm trying to do.
Chris, I love you.
That's a burner account. That's actually Kevin talking to himself again.
James, anything on the Michael Badgley front you found interesting for our audience that hasn't been listening this morning? The new Colts kicker, a familiar face within the organization.
Well, his nickname is the Money Badger.
The Money
Can you
Badger,
explain that to me?
correct?
Because I was not around for this era of Michael.
Yeah, so honestly, he was the Lions kicker, probably most notably. Chargers is where he got his start, and that's where the
Gotcha.
overlap
I mean,
was.
I know I've seen the history of it, like where he played, but I was like, where'd the nickname come from?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he kicked a 53-yarder to win a game. I forget when it was. I think obviously it was a little Honey Badger was at the time also prominent, so it kind of made sense. I feel like we're always looking for kicker nicknames. But, one thing to note, too, while there are some questions about length, 50 yards, he's 5 of 13 in his career. Questions about where exactly he's at physically after tearing the hamstring last year. He has kicked very well, I should note, in playoff games. 5 playoff games. I want to say combined, if you include the extra points, I want to say it's like 21 of 22. So, there's, go back to what we said earlier. There's always going to be warts when you make the in-season kicker signing. There's always warts. Can you make sure the warts are, just on the butt for nobody to see?
Always feels like with kickers, though, too. Mark missed that one. He's writing something down over there.
Oh, no, I've got it.
He
pulled.
missed
All right. I heard
nothing.
Was that a good one or a bad
That
one?
was pretty good.
That was
I
a good
like
one.
that.
I liked
that.
it. Yeah.
As opposed to, like the face or, or, hands or, somewhere else.
I always feel like with kickers, though, some kickers, they'll bounce around here and there, but every once in a while they just get into that groove for a while, right? And they'll play really well, and they'll kick outstanding percentages and everything else for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, and all of a sudden is like a golfer, just loses his swing and can't get it back, Kevin. I wonder if Badgley's one of those guys. We just need to get him on a little bit of a groove here.
Well, he's just got to get back to kicking. I mean, the dude has not kicked an NFL game in 620-some days. I mean, that's a real – he tore his hamstring right before the start of last season during training camp. Mark, the Lions kicker, Jake Bates, isn't that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It was going to be him and Jake Bates in a competition, and Bates has turned out to be a hell of a kicker coming over here. So for those that were curious about Rodrigo Blankenship, he was not one of the 8 tryout kickers for the Colts yesterday.
Here's one last little tidbit before we go to break about the kicking operation. So we did get some information about the backups. And so according to special teams coordinator Brian Mason, former coach at Notre Dame, he mentioned that the backup long snappers would be Drew Ogletree and Tyler Warren, Mr. Do-It-All. And then the backup holder would be the normal long snapper, Luke Rhodes, and then the backup kicker will be Rigoberto Sanchez. And so that was interesting to me. I know I've tweeted that out. People were like, why is everyone switching positions? And this sounds like an awful idea. It's like, this is the emergency break. This isn't plan A or, plan B. It's literally like, let's just get through a game. And so I found it interesting.
And Mason was adamant yesterday the most important part of the operation is the hold. And Luke Rhodes has been on the hands team for X amount of years, so he was like, you can screw up the snap. You can't screw up the hold. So if the snap is errant, we've got to get that hold down.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not just a given. Your backup quarterback or whatever, Josh Downs, can spin it correctly. So it was very nerdy special teams talk from Brian Mason yesterday, but actually I thoroughly enjoy listening to him. I think it's great detail whenever he talks.
All right, coming up next, Stephen Holder stops by, talk a little bit more about the Colts. Pacers played their first preseason game last night. We'll get back into that. A lot going on here on a Wednesdays, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Can you make sure the warts are, just on the butt for nobody to see?
He might have another tub of balls You hear that? Must be time for a little Colts talk on a Wednesday morning. Stephen Holder from ESPN.com stops by on the Payless Liquors hotline, as he is wont to do every Wednesday morning here. Good morning, Mr. Holder. How's your week going so far?
Busy, but that's what tends to happen in the NFL season, so all good.
So, Holder, let's start here. Familiar face coming back on the kicking side with Michael Bagley. So what can you tell us about the addition of him and sort of trying to fill that hole that Spencer Schrader now has left after getting injured in Sunday's game?
Well, it's not ideal, right? They've certainly gotten themselves a veteran, so, he won't be fazed by difficult circumstances and things like that. But Spencer Schrader was rolling, to be completely honest. And, what they had going there, I don't know that they will be able to duplicate that with Michael Badgley. And I think 13 of 14 so far for Spencer Schrader. He was leading the NFL in made field goals. And I think that comfort for Shane Steichen, he's going to lose some of that. And the thing that I think people should pay attention to most is this is going to change, I think, his fourth down approach a little bit. When you look at Badgley's accuracy beyond 50 yards or 50 and beyond, not great. I think he's 5 of 13 in his career, and he's now 30 years old, so he's not as young as he used to be. So what is going to be Shane Steichen's confidence level when he gets into that midfield or just plus in the opponent territory range, and you get into these fourth down situations? How does that impact his play calling? I think it will.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Stephen Holder from ESPN with us here. Payless Liquors hotline. Colts back to practice today, right around a touchdown favorite heading into Sunday with the Arizona Cardinals. Stephen, your colleague Adam Schefter said yesterday that he thinks by the time the trade deadline arrives, which I want to say is like November 2nd or 3rd, that he sees right around a dozen trades in the NFL. We saw a couple of them yesterday. In-season trades have never been a thing for Chris Ballard. If you had to look at one position that you could see them potentially exploring for a trade in the next few weeks, what would that be?
To acquire or give away, I guess, or either.
To acquire, let's call them a buyer to acquire.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I would say secondary is fluid. The secondary, the defensive backfield, it's fluid. I'm not saying today that they feel a trade is necessary, but I think it is definitely fluid. And I mean, there's been changes already in that area. Mike Hilton going on IR is notable. I think we got to see how this plays out in the next week to 2 weeks, and there may be a need to at least consider it. Because I think that's an area right now where they're vulnerable. They just are. They're also vulnerable at linebacker. And we've talked about this a lot. They're able to cover it up, or have been so far, but is that how they want to live? That position, this is not shocking. We said this going into the season, that would be problematic, and it has been. And that's why they've already made moves there. They've had a couple claims. They've had a signing. They have, I think, confirmed our criticisms, or given credence to our criticisms by, making consistent moves at linebacker, trying to find some consistency.
Holder, just to pivot a bit to, I guess, one of the more positive parts of that defense, Latu. I know you, I believe, did a piece on him just recently. What have you thought about the growth he's shown in year two? And I mean, everywhere I look, whether it's at The Athletic or ESPN, he's up there when it comes to pressures and splash play rate, meaning, the amount of times he's able to, make a play that impacts the game. So how would you assess his performance so far with 2 interceptions but just 1 sack on the season?
Yeah, I don't think you can really measure his performance with just the sacks right now, because they aren't there. There's no question, right? 1 sack is not going to get anybody excited after 5 games. And I also understand why, as a fan, you would look at that and be like, give me a break. Like, how are you guys pumping this guy up? But I think that's why you got to watch the tape. And if you watch him play, and I know you have, right, you see a guy who is impacting the game. Can he do more? Yes, of course. You can finish those plays and get the sacks. But there have been at least 2 or 3 other sacks that have come as a direct result of Latu doing his part and creating the initial pressure. So ultimately, it's a team game, and if someone else gets the sack, it probably doesn't do a lot for your contract negotiations in the future, but certainly helps the Colts win ultimately. And I think he's creating plenty of disruption right now. I also would say, and Lou Anarumo has made this point, he's played well in terms of the other areas. It's not just rushing the passer. Obviously, he is now, affecting the passing game in other ways with the 2 interceptions and dropping into coverage, but that's not his main gig. He has been a good edge setter and helped stop the run. That's just as important, all right? Probably half the plays you're going to play are going to be running plays. So that matters just as much, and he's done a good job there. And finally, I'll just say this. The one thing he pointed out to me is that he's playing with more power, and he got stronger over the offseason. And whatever that is, whether it's stopping the run or rushing the passer, playing with more power is going to help you big time. And I can really see that in his game right now.
It's funny to watch this Colts team mature and go 4-1, and just about every area of the team has had its success at times this year. We talked about the defensive line just a moment ago. They're getting better, and obviously the injuries are going to affect the secondary at some point, I would think. But is there a particular area of the team that you think has just been nails from day one until now?
I think the offensive line has probably not gotten enough credit. And look, there have been some minor detours. The Rams game was a tough one. Bernard Raymond, I've not seen him play like that, since his rookie year. That was a tough game for him. But I think overall, based on where my expectations were and the questions that I had versus where they are right now, I think you have to be very happy. They have exceeded expectations. I never thought they were going to be a bad offensive line. That's ridiculous. We knew they were at least decent, but I think there were questions because of the 2 new starting positions and who they lost, and just could that group come together? Braden Smith coming back, we hadn't seen him play for a little bit, and it has all come together. There's no question about it, and I think you're starting to see Shane Steichen really embrace some of these individuals too, like Tanner Bortolini getting out there and pulling the other day for Jonathan Taylor, I think touchdown or 2-point conversion, I forget. But that's a tough assignment as a center. Snap the ball, get up off your butt, and get out there and lead the blocking effort on the edge. That's a hell of a play for a young guy, and he did it pretty effortlessly. So when you're asking that guy to do that, that tells you what you think about him, I believe. Same old with Quentin Nelson. I mean, Frank Reich told me one time, their former coach, he said, he is the best pulling guard I've ever seen in my life. And that remains true at nearly 30 years old. Quentin he's unbelievable. And I don't think people always appreciate him enough, but that man is one of the best football players I've ever seen in my life.
Skill player, right, James Boyd? Quentin Nelson?
Yeah, that's what Shane Steichen told us when I asked him about it on Monday. And so you heard from Stephen Holder, who's watched his entire career here in Indianapolis. And so that's just further confirmation. The last one I got for you, Holder, on the way out, should strength of schedule matter when we talk about the Colts being potential contenders?
No, I don't think so. Because to be honest with you, when you look at strength of schedule, the disparity is never really that much. When I always look at it at the end of the season, you look at the hardest schedule and it'll be something like a winning percentage, opponent winning percentage of 56%. And then you look at the bottom and it's like a winning percentage, opponent winning percentage of 46%. And I'm like, what are we even talking about? This is stupid, right? So, and that might be a slight exaggeration. My numbers are just sort of off the top of my head. But I'm telling you, go back and look at it at the end of the year, and it evens out. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but it really doesn't make, I don't think, a concerted difference. Look, I would much rather play a last place schedule than a first place schedule. That is obvious because there's going to be those 3 or 4 opponents that are definitely tougher. But that's all it is, too. It's 3 or 4 opponents we're talking about. The rest of it tends to even out. And, look, I mean, you are what you are. And John Gruden always said to me that, you are what your record says you are. And he was right. I mean, there are a lot of other things he said. I thought he was full of what. But but on that note, he was right. He was right. You are what your record says, and that tends to be true historically.
Always good to talk to you, Stephen. Have a great Wednesday. These guys will see you out of practice, and I'll see you on Sunday.
All right. See you guys soon.
There he is, Stephen Holder, joining us on a Wednesday morning, probably in the middle of dropping kids off somewhere. But nice of him to stop by. And the Arizona Cardinals coming to town 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. And we'll find out more about the injury situation for the Colts a little bit later on today.
Stephen, tell your daughter to get on that bus like I did way back in my day. Ride the school bus. Ain't nothing wrong with that. This kid's too spoiled these days.
You always got something going on from your childhood, man. I love it.
Nah, I'm just joking. Stephen's got a great family, and I'm sure when he tells me about the dad life, I just take his word for it. I can keep waiting.
All right. Last night, the Pacers played their first preseason game of the year, game you heard right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And I guess initial thoughts, Kevin Bowen, starting 5 I thought looked okay. I mean, it's the first preseason game. Eventually in the third quarter, the second unit built a 24-point lead, then gave it right back up, and we had to go to overtime. But especially at center, what were your thoughts last night?
Yeah, well, center, I thought Isaiah Jackson, you obviously got to be on the floor without fouling. That was probably the biggest issue for him. I was a little surprised Tony Bradley. Remember, he is on the non-contract guarantee, that he was the second center into the game. Now, he barely played, and who knows, maybe Rick Carlisle was saying, hey, first preseason game, this will be the combo. Second preseason game, maybe he's already kind of pre-planned it. I liked what I saw from Jay Huff, James, and I would say that on both ends of the floor, and it's not like we saw Huff necessarily play to his strength as potentially being a guy that can hit the outside shot. I thought he protected the rim nicely. A couple times, Anthony Edwards tried to bang one home on him, and I thought Huff did a nice job of hanging in there and trying to make a play at the rim. He's more, I think, of a rim protector than Jackson. Just height-wise.
Yes.
Jackson's 6'9", 240. Huff is a legit 7 foot there. So I liked what Huff showed, even though maybe the stat line doesn't indicate it. But yeah, as far as the starting group, I mean, you're thrilled. I mean, Siakam was in his bag, and Nesmith, hit open shots, and Mathurin had typical Mathurin finishes of just like, wait, what's going? Oh, that ball went in.
The fast break where he got fouled and kind of just twisted and threw it up off the glass.
Both of the and one.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know which one was better. It's amazing his touch around the rim when it looks like it's going nowhere.
Also, I do think it's a skill to get to the foul line as much as he does.
Certainly.
That guy, it reminds me kind of like D. Wade was back in the day. I'm not saying that he's on D. Wade's level by any means, but I mean, he gets like 4 points a game, 6 points a game, just off.
Especially on
fouled.
a team that doesn't have many of those guys.
Exactly. That's a very good element to have in his game.
Yeah. So, starting group played really well against Minnesota's frontline guys. So, I think you had to be pleased with that.
Yeah, starting group was really hot from three-point range last night, too. I mean, it felt like almost everything was going in for a while. But at the end, overtime, they win it by 1 point. In fact, let's tell you all about it right now. Mark, let's check things down. You heard it right here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. The Pacers' first preseason game, a 135-134 overtime win on the road against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Pacers were leading by 24 in the second half, and somehow, some way, gacked that one up and had to go win it in overtime.
Yeah, like I said, I believe that overtime in the NBA preseason should be sudden death. But even though it wasn't, the Pacers found a way to hang on. I thought Enrique Freeman, for a second there, Kevin, was going to make the walk-off game winner against his former team.
Revenge game.
Yeah.
You could see he was a little perturbed that he didn't get that, that jab back at him.
I thought it was interesting. There were a number of former Pacers on that Timberwolves team that I didn't know were there at this point in time, too. Enrique, one of those guys. So, anyway, 135-134.
Does anybody else play for the Pacers over there?
Yeah, I'll look up the box score in a second. I want to say there were 2 or 3 guys that were spent some.
Tristan Newton, I think, might have been one of them. Just a cup of coffee here.
135-134 in overtime. Ray J. Dennis had 16 points. Pascal Siakam had 14. Neesmith and Furphy each had 12. They will play the Thunder on Saturday night. And we'll change over to the Colts now. Michael Badgley is the new kicker, James Boyd, for the Indianapolis Colts. What do we know about where he's been and what he's been up to the last 2 years?
Well, he hasn't been up to NFL kicking the last year. He missed all of last year due to a hamstring injury. But a familiar face, had a pretty solid season, I would say, back in 2021 with the Colts. And so they do know him, and he does know the holder and the the people who were part of the operation, the long snapper, and Luke Rhodes and Rigoberto Sanchez. And so you just wonder, how quickly he can get acclimated to kicking at a high rate again, and obviously helping his football team keep their strong season rolling, because the Colts are 4-1, and the only thing that really at this point in the year you can point to and say, oh, this could mess it up, is probably injuries.
Yeah. Speaking of injuries, they're back at practice today. Arizona Sunday at 1. But on the injury front, what are we looking at with Kenny Moore this week, Kevin?
Yeah, is it going to be one more week or not? Is this an injury, James, where he needs a full week plus of work? Achilles, that's the body part labeled. Now, they didn't put him under reserve, so you would think his return would be coming up soon here, because if you put him on IR, he could be out for 4 games. So, yeah, Kenny Moore. We'll see about Alec Pierce and that concussion. Another guy, does he need more than a week? And then Grover Stewart with that bicep. Those would be the 3 to watch. And then, as I said earlier, the biggest individual injury for Week 6, Colts Cardinals, is out there in the desert. And that would be Kyler Murray, where he's at with the foot. Does he practice? How limited is he, if any, coming up on Sunday? That'll be a big one to watch.
All right. Speaking of the Cardinals, you see Jonathan Gannon got fined $100,000 for essentially putting his hands on DeMarcado after he dropped that looked like a 75-yard touchdown run at the goal line. $100,000 the team fined him.
Well, and I'm going to be honest, if I'm Jonathan Gannon, I think I Venmo request the running back.
Hey, you're going to split this with me?
Seriously.
I think it was just because he put hands on him. You can't do that. You can't do that.
I get that, but damn, can you imagine being Jonathan Gannon right now and having to watch that play? And as soon as that dude starts jogging at the 20-yard line, you knew something bad was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I'm like, oh boy, something bad's about to happen. And then I thought, when I saw the Jonathan Gannon fine, how grateful our coaches from the 1970s, 80s, 90s.
You used to be able to grab a guy by the face mask.
Bob Knight would not be Bob Knight if this were a different era.
Can you imagine how many fines you would have? Not even Bob Knight. I'm talking about like your high school coach at some random school.
Yeah, that's true. I did have some coaches growing up that
like
they said some words
Gannon,
you can't
yes,
repeat.
I get what you can't put your hands on the dude, but in the terms of like physical altercation, that is probably a 1 on the scale of a lot of coaches.
I also think it's just, what annoys me the most is that celebration is lame anyway. Like, what is the goal there? Like, there's so many more elaborate and cool celebrations in the NFL. The one about, like, I'm going to drop the ball the instant I cross the thing. Like, there's nothing cool about it.
Yeah, I will say Tyler Warren had a pretty nice celebration there.
Big old spike.
No, he had but he like cracked it like he was chugging a beer.
Yeah.
And then he spiked it, and then when we had like a behind the scenes that the Colts did when they were mic'd up. And Molly Cox was like, hey, what kind of brew was it? And he said Natty Light. And he was like, you're just like a college kid. So, I would say as a non-drinker.
That's the most Tyler Warren beer
Natty
out
Light
there.
was certainly what I heard a lot of in college. So he's one of us. Is that kind of how I would describe Tyler Warren.
Carb Day special.
Should I have him sign my PBR hat today?
The Jonathan Gannon fine, not even my favorite fine of the week so far for the NFL. Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones has been fined $250,000 by the league for his, quote, inadvertent obscene gesture toward fans at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. The Cowboys are likely to appeal, they say, but videos on social media show that Jones quickly flashing the number 1 sign with the middle finger late in the Cowboys' win over the Jets after Dak Prescott's 4th touchdown pass increased the lead to 37-14.
We get to suck on that all week.
Yes, you do, Jerry.
I could watch that video of the middle finger from Jerry all day long. It was so good.
And him saying it was an accident is hilarious.
Oh,
you know
so
what?
good.
You know what that is? It's literally FU money. So for him, he's probably thinking like, you know what? If I get a little, antsy with the fingers, I got enough money in the bank to pay for it.
Can you imagine getting like a $250,000 fine and literally in the back of your head, you're like, I will.
It's a different level of seriously. It's a different level of richness. Honestly.
There's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes.
That's got to be one of your top 5 favorites right there, Mark.
That's a good one.
Major League Baseball yesterday. The Mariners beat the Tigers by a score of 8-4. They take a 2-1 lead in that American League Divisional Series. Cal Raleigh hit a 2-run home run, had 3 RBI on the day, and Aaron Judge just continues to produce in the postseason. He had a home run that tied the game with the Blue Jays last night in the 4th inning. The Yankees go on to win it by a score of 9-6. They stay alive. The Jays still lead 2-1. That is the 6th postseason home run that he has had to either tie or take the lead for the Yankees in his career, man.
That was quite the shot and much, much needed to avoid the old broom.
Yeah. 4 games later on today, chief among them for Mark Dykton, the Cubs at 5:08, hosting the Milwaukee Brewers. Down 2-0, but 2 in a row at home. Let's go, Cubbies, right?
Find a way to win a baseball game today. That's what it is.
Kevin did not support you with a T-shirt today.
I asked Mark several times yesterday if he would like, and he politely declined multiple times.
Yep. I don't want it. Don't want it, don't need it.
All right.
Served you well last series.
All right, so that one starts at 5:08 for the Cubs.
Don't want it, don't need it.
Baseball superstitions. Interesting.
Mariners and Tigers play at 3:08. That'll lead things off today. A little bit later on, it'll be Toronto at the Yankees at 7:08. And a 9:08 start time, our time, for the Philadelphia Phillies and the Dodgers. Dodgers lead that 2-0, and maybe Kyle Schwarber will single-handedly save the day for the Phillies tonight. We'll see. Be nice. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
Game 3 tonight, WNBA Finals. Aces up 2-0. That series now shifts to Phoenix again. We're now best of 7 when it comes to WNBA Finals. And on the other side, I do want to hit on, Stephen Holder brought up that strength of schedule. You know, there's a lot of this talk right now about the Colts. How legit are they? Who have they played? I think there's a little context around that I found interesting and kind of doing a little bit more of a deeper dive into it yesterday.
We'll take a look at that. And also, Mark, you're curious again today, right? You've got questions today?
Always curious.
All right. Mark's got to know about a few things coming up in a minute here. One other thing on the WNBA side, Adam Silver spoke yesterday. He said it's a shame that already that collective bargaining agreement talks between the players and the commissioner seem to have gotten personal. They've got to get the personal stuff out of there, James.
Yeah. This is probably a testament to just how I'm wired, but I think everything in life is personal. You're dealing with people, so figure it out.
All right. We'll talk Colts next, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It's the exact midpoint of the week for us, guys. 8:30 on a Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. If you're on the way to school, have a great day. On the way to work, that too. Colts back at work today over at West 56. They'll take on the Arizona Cardinals, 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. A game will be heard right here at 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan, the pregame show starts at 9. The ride to kickoff with JMV. We go on through the day for there as well. Looking forward to that. And Kevin Bowen, you were mentioning something a moment ago. You wanted to piggyback on something Stephen Holder had said.
Yeah, it kind of got brought up there late in the Stephen conversation, strength of schedule. And, certainly if you look at the Colts' strength of schedule right now, it's not one of the better ones by any means in the league. But, to me, what stands out through the first 5 games is the level that they are just blowing these teams out. I know I said it on Monday, but I'll say it again. 20-point victory for the Colts on Sunday. That's 3 of them this season. They didn't have a single one of them. I want to say it's like their last 60 games played prior to the start of the season. None in 2024, none in 2023, none in 2022. And I was curious, at this point of a season, teams that have gotten off to this hot of a start, again, their point differential, I think, is plus 74 right now. What has that meant to the entire year? And if you look at I decided to go to the last 10 years. If you look at the last 10 years, the Colts are one of 9 NFL teams to be plus 70 or better through the first 5 weeks. And if you look at the rest of the season for those other 8 teams that fall into that category, all of them but one won a playoff game. And 3 of the 8 made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So you saw a very consistent theme from these teams that get off to hot starts and are beating the bleep out of teams that not only are they sustaining that from a win-loss standpoint, I want to say all of them won at least 11 games, they're sustaining it, but then when they get into the postseason, they're all having some success. Again, 7 of the 8 won a playoff game, and 3 of them got all the way to the Super Bowl. So that, to me, matters a bit. And I get each NFL season and each life is different, and who knows, the Colts could have a big injury that all of a sudden hurts their chances. But if you look at it, all of these teams turned good starts into pretty good finishes as well. And so I think if you're a Colts fan, you got to hear that, and you got to be pretty encouraged by that.
Yeah, and I look at the Colts and where they're at right now too, and we always talk about injuries on this show in the morning and how it's going to go. If this team can get healthy, particularly in the secondary as the season goes along, and that's always a hallmark for any team that probably plays well throughout the year in the NFL is relative health. That's as much going to play into it for the Colts down the stretch as anything, I would think, in the second half of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said earlier throughout the show, the only thing that can really mess this thing up for them is injuries at this point. But getting back to the strength of schedule conversation, I mean, are we talking about college football here? Are we talking about a committee that's going to decide who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't? I mean, you can only play who's in front of you. And so I threw it out there because I do think that often comes up to discredit, what a team has done. And honestly, I mean, if you win by 1 or you win by 50, it's all a win. But you can't discredit the way they're doing it and just how infrequent that is. I mean, yes, I know there are bad teams in the NFL, but this isn't they're not beating teams that are directional schools with, funding that is considerably lower than, another school that paid them to come play them. This is not college athletics. They all operate from the same, rule of, salary cap and players and roster management. And so for you to go out there and beat another professional team as bad as you have 3 times, it says a lot about where your team is and where you could be headed. Now, I do want to see, more tests for this team and for you to pass some of those tests a little bit better. I think you struggled against Denver and you should have lost that game, though, hey, you never, apologize for winning in whatever way you can do. And then in LA, you kind of give that game away with some of your own blunders. So I believe that next real test, in my opinion, you don't want to look too far ahead if you're the team, but as a guy who's not on the team, I don't care. I think that Chargers game is a big one. Going back out to L.A. against a quarterback who many believe to be a top 5, at his position. How do you look against that team, and how do you kind of come away from, that trip?
And they're really banged up. Both their offensive tackles likely out. Their top 2 running backs as well. And one thing I would add.
That's part of it too, Kevin. I'll let you finish, but in the NFL, injuries are a big factor every year in how teams
1,000%.
look. So it's like, hey, if we get to that game against the Chargers and you're like, well, they're not the real Chargers, I'm not finna feel sorry for them. Nobody should.
No,
So,
I mean, a lot of not is who you play, it's when you play them.
bingo.
You know, you think back to the Dolphins last year, and I get that that's not probably the best example because Tua was terrible in week 1, but Miami has been much better with him versus whatever, Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle. But one thing to add, too, about the Colts is we're not used, and they're not used to being 4-1. So a question I would have is, what does this early season, and obviously Daniel Jones is the exact example of it, what is this early season confidence doing for them? Now, when you're at Arrowhead in late November, when you're at Jacksonville, as crazy as that sounds, in early December, when you're at Seattle later that month, and you get into one-possession tight games, does a 3rd and 7 throw that Daniel Jones might not have had as much confidence in New York, does now he have a little bit more belief? And honestly, I thought you saw that on the play on the goal line on Sunday that he made right before halftime. I mean, that's a big-time decision and throw. And is any part of that? Because he has played so well through the first 4 weeks, and now he feels like he's walking out there and peacock strutting a little bit more. So that would be a kind of a bigger picture question I would have for the entire football team, but Daniel Jones probably individually the most.
Yeah, the other thing with the new kicker Michael Badgley coming in for the injured Spencer Schrader, don't discount that too. This is going to be a big deal because Spencer Schrader was on the money for the first 5 games, field goals, extra points, and a lot of those scoring drives came down to field goals rather than touchdowns. They got better at scoring touchdowns last week, but he put up a lot of points for this team over the first several games.
Yeah, I want to say he was leading the league in made field goals. 13 of 14, his only miss was from 50-plus yards. And so, yeah, he was –
Bless you.
He was having a, really good season. And just unfortunate. It's one of those things where, if you ask the coach or the players off the record, was that dirty play? I think they probably would say yes, because watching the replay, there's really no reason for that to happen. But you have to move on. And like you said, Kevin, and you're hoping that the warts, just stay on the butt.
That is what I said.
Mark didn't even flinch. He's just staring at your screen over there.
Letting it sit there for a minute. Let it breathe. That's what they say sometimes.
Yeah, 14 of 14 on extra points, and in addition to what you mentioned, 13 of 14 from field goals, 53 points. That's a lot of the points that the Colts have scored. So
and
they'll
Steven
need to keep that coming.
You're pretty adamant. We had him on earlier that he thinks this could impact Shane Steichen from a decision-making standpoint. We haven't seen. I mean, how many field goals did Schrader even attempt, James, from north of 50? Was it 2?
I want to say just 2.
One make and one miss.
Yes.
Yeah. So they didn't really fall into that yardage category, but you see this with coaches a lot around the league. They get into the 4th and 6 where it be like, well, you could go for it, or you could try the 54-yarder. What do you do there?
Do you think it makes him more aggressive?
Yes. I think he will lack confidence in Michael Badgley from north of 50. I mean, there were times I felt like with, I don't know, maybe more Matt Gay actually, where he would go for those field goals. He would go for those 4th downs anyways. And now you have a dude that has a track record that's not very good, north of 50 yards. So I would expect Shane Steichen to be more aggressive in terms of, he already is very aggressive and going for it on 4th down, but just some things to watch here with a new kicker inside of the building.
That's why they did all the 2-point conversions too, not just because they had a hurt kicker, because he's like, I'm just going to go for 2 here on out. That's how we're doing the rest of the season.
I still don't get the not trying Rigoberto Sanchez one time.
Yeah, it was the perfect game to do it.
I mean, you might as well.
You were not bothered at all by the Raiders.
Emergency operation, if that ever rises in a game again, might as well get him and Luke Rhodes and Drew Ogletree a rep.
All right, coming up in a moment, we will take a look at some of your text on the fan text line at 239-1070. Also, Mark has an I Gotta Know ready to go for us. It's all coming up next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, I'm Jeff Rickard. Thanks so much for taking us along for the ride. However you might be listening this morning at 107.5 The Fan, 93.5, Blowtorch at 93.1 HD2 if you have that available to you in your car. That's a great signal right there. You can always download the app at 107.5 The Fan. Listen to us at 1075thefan.com, or even, Mark, talk to your smart speaker at home. Say, Alexa, play 107.5 The Fan. You get us all those different variety of ways.
I like to see if we mess with other people's like smart speakers at home. Like if we say it, will our voices turn it on? Or activate? Like we turn off Bluey songs, and all of a sudden sports radio's on, and the kids are crying, and babies are screaming.
Oh, they'd be rejoicing.
Alexa, play Knuck If You Buck right now.
Oh, Lord. I tell you what, the kids will get dressed in a hurry. They might not have on the right type of clothes, or they might not be matching, but they would certainly have some energy.
I'll speak for all young parents. If they get dressed in a hurry, that is an absolute win.
You'll take it?
I don't care what they're wearing. They can be wearing nothing for all I care.
I think we just got a little insight into the morning rides to school and back there. I like that.
Oh, that's 100% true. Because Ashley all the time, she's like,
right?
These kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Maddie just texted me earlier today. Max was a mess this morning. I mean, just get out of the. I don't care what it is. Get out of the house, hopefully in one piece, and the more the merrier.
They walk out with wet hair because the kids are getting out of the shower 5 minutes before they got to get out the door. I'm like, too bad.
What a life.
Get out ready. Stop. You better choke down those Pop-Tarts and get out the door.
James is all, yeah, it's Saturday. I'm thinking for another
hour. I do have
hour.
a question. I know we'll get back to the sports, but I have to ask, because I see this in movies all the time. Did your parents cook breakfast for you growing up?
Yes.
Because that never happened in my household.
We would do pancakes Sundays.
Yeah,
and
Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, I mean, during the week. I'm like,
Hell
I hate that. I see these movies, and the kid comes downstairs. It's like, I'm riding with my friend to school. I don't have time to eat this like bacon eggs. And I'm like, bacon and eggs? I never got that growing up.
When I got older, I would make probably not the most healthy. Clearly, I'd make chocolate chip muffins for myself on Sunday, like 10 of them, and then have like 2 each day, before.
Oh, okay. You were a planner.
But that's when I was like, a teenager at that point.
I was
and I could
thinking it was Pop-Tarts, graham crackers. It was just sweet stuff.
All these sitcoms.
You want that omelet like this or like that? No.
I'm like, what kind of shit?
All these 90s sitcoms where they'd sit around in the morning and the dad's like drinking coffee and the kids are getting ready. And they're just having nice conversation.
School started at 11 a.m.?
Looks at his watch like, well, Carl Winslow's like, I guess I better get to work now.
Yeah,
and
I know the kid. And then there's like a
what?
pile of pancakes and fruit. And they're like, nah, I'll just, I don't have time for this. I'm too cool for that. I'm like, too cool? Like, what the heck?
I'll tell you,
Steve
Marcos
Urkel's stopping by. I'm like, Steve, get ready for school. What are you doing?
I miss the sitcom era.
My wife's aunt lives with us and has since the boys were born. She's terrific. She makes them breakfast every morning before they go to school. How about that?
That's elite living.
That is a dream.
Man, she is terrific, too.
Cereal and, maybe a granola bar. And get out the
that was
door.
pretty much the life.
Gotta get to early bird English.
This camera shot from left field of the Aaron Judge home run, the Yankees Instagram. Tweet this out.
I've not seen that.
What a cool camera shot of this. Off the foul pole last night for those that missed it. And just what a moment. There is something, I mean, obviously my team is clearly not in it. There is something about October baseball that I think there is kind of a true cinema feel to it. Of like,
I love it.
The whole stadium rises at 2 strikes and, just the every silent right before the crack of the bat and, how you get out of the jam and all of a sudden you think, here comes the big rally next inning and all of that. So Yankees were up against it last night and the captain certainly delivered for him.
All right. Mark, I know you're a very curious young man, as we always like to say. What's on your mind this morning?
He's got questions.
How about a game?
They've got answers.
Hey, I'm more of a cornhole man myself.
Sports, music, movies.
What?
High fashion.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
And everything in between.
You ever seen a foot with 4 toes?
It's time to get a glimpse into the mind of Mark Dykton.
Stop it, you're scaring me.
It's time for I Gotta Know.
Okay, you punks, I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on.
All right, I may have you guys put your thinking caps on today. Might challenge the brains a little bit more than usual here. But let's start off simple. A team not named the Colts who has surprised you for the first 5 weeks of the season.
Oh, easily for me, it's the Jaguars. I am shocked that they have played this well. And, Travis Hunter seems to be coming into his own. I thought he had probably his best game of his career this past weekend. And Trevor Lawrence, I never know how to feel about him. And he's looking like he's good again. I don't know, but they're a surprising team. I didn't expect them or the Colts to be 4-1 at this point in the year.
I would have said Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers only because they have been so banged up. No George Kittle to start the entire season. No Juwan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall was hurt at a certain point in time. It's just pretty much now Brock Purdy's been hurt, their quarterback. They just keep rolling. Nothing stops them. Kyle Shanahan's just got it going there, and I keep waiting for them to kind of fall off a cliff, and they never really do.
Yeah, in a positive direction, I would echo the similar thoughts about Tampa Bay. Very banged up, and yet they're at 4-1. But Mark, if I could go surprise, I mean, you didn't say positive or negative.
No, just either way.
I mean, certainly Baltimore.
That's a good one.
And then Kansas City.
Mine would be, and this isn't surprising because I didn't expect them to be good, but how bad they are is the Jets, where they don't even have a turnover in the first 5 games of the season. And I wasn't having high expectations. I never thought they'd even be above 500, but to be as bad as they have been, I wonder if Aaron Glenn's kind of maybe I should have stayed in Detroit an extra year.
I think they're actually pretty funny to me. They're a comedic team, in my opinion, and Aaron Glenn is a comedian as well. He was so hard on the media going into the season about how things are going to be different and not wanting to answer questions and being all defensive. Now you're 0-5, brother, and people are asking, should you stick around for another year?
Mm-hmm. Quick bonus question for you guys. Are we believing at all in the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Yeah, I think you believe in the Steelers every year, right? Because don't they just make the playoffs?
Yeah, I
don't care who the quarterback is.
Yeah,
I mean,
they'll
Tomlin's
make the playoffs and then they'll lose because they won a playoff game
coach for
since
a reason.
2016.
All right, you can change one team's uniform back to how it used to be. Who would it be? So I'll let you guys think about that for a second. I've got a couple, but if I have to pick one, Jeff will get very excited. The old Broncos uniforms, the orange unis with the blue helmet and the big D on the helmet. Who doesn't love some big D every once in a while? We know Taylor Swift does, according to that last song about Travis Kelce. But that old Broncos uniform is fantastic.
I really hope the drop-offs have already occurred.
What are you talking about?
Boy.
Sounds like you got a case of
The
sports
song is
arousal
called
this
Wood.
morning.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
No, that one is awesome. I love the old. This is
Jeff, are you his boss?
The old
I don't know
Patriots
what's
uniform.
happening right now. I'm not sure.
The old Patriots uniform back in the day with Pat Patriot,
the red
hiking
ones?
the ball. That's a glorious one. The Bucks creamsicle jerseys.
Yeah, I would go powder blue Chargers.
Oh,
yeah.
Those are glorious.
But
Are those
Mark,
still considered
I do-
throwbacks though? Because they wear them quite regularly.
I know,
now.
but yeah, I think you do consider them throwbacks. I would agree with you on the blue Broncos helmet.
Those are glorious. Those need to be a staple. They need to just bring those back full time.
I don't know why they don't just use them all the time. Anyway, they'll use them 2 or 3 times a year, and I'm like, just stay with that. Can you imagine that?
They look so good.
And that in twice a year against the powder blue Chargers uniforms. I know it wouldn't be twice a year because home road uniforms, but
sign me up.
It makes me very nostalgic. Yes,
I'll go Kelly Green, Philly.
Ooh, those are sweet.
Those are nice.
Those are pretty nice.
Those are
I like
sweet.
when they wear those throwbacks.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a move that was rumored to happen that didn't happen that we'd love to have seen worked out? I go back to my Bears fandom. Kurt Warner was apparently supposed to work out with the Bears years ago, and he got bit by a spider, so he canceled his workout with the Bears. And I'm always like, what would have happened there? Or there was another one where Randy Moss was supposed to meet with the Bears. His favorite player was Walter Payton. They scheduled a breakfast with Walter Payton for Randy Moss, and Randy Moss overslept the meeting, and the Bears were like, nope, take him off the list. We're not drafting him.
Oh, I mean, the easy one on the silver platter is what if Tyrese never gets hurt in Game 7?
Yep.
I mean, that's the one that is fresh in our minds. But as far as my own personal sports fandom, being a Bulls fan growing up, the summer that LeBron went into free agency, I want to say that was 2010.
Mm-hmm.
He was I think him and Carmelo Anthony were teasing about teaming up in Chicago with Derrick Rose. And I was like, if we just get one of these guys, we're winning a championship. So, I mean, I get it. It's easy to hate LeBron if you're an Eastern Conference basketball team fan. But I think anybody given truth serum would say, we would welcome the best player in the world at that time to our team. So, I hated him back then. And for good reason. He kept putting my Bulls teams out. I was sick of it. I was thinking, if I can't beat him, come join us.
You didn't mention Russell Wilson potentially to the Chicago Bears.
No, I didn't want that at all. No, thank you. Hard pass.
Kevin?
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, when you said Randy Moss, at one time the thought was he was going to Notre Dame. And so, honestly, that's where I went a little bit with Notre Dame fandom there. But as far as, I laugh because I don't know how much validity were behind some of these rumors, but he seemingly comes up with a different one every year. Paul George saying that he was trying to get Anthony Davis to be a Pacer. Mm-hmm. And he acted like there was some truth in that or some realism that could have been there. What would that have looked like? Would you have gotten past LeBron and Wade and Bosch there? Because even without Anthony Davis, you got to, game 6s and 7s with them. So, yeah, I think about that from a trade
the rumor standpoint. That changes
standpoint.
What about the Colts pulling the trigger on Matthew Stafford? That would have been
that would have
been nice.
And that would have been instead of Carson Wentz in 2021.
That's a good one.
Yeah, could you have had the Rams' success with that?
I like that.
What was yours, Jeff?
I actually looked this up to make sure I was remembering it correctly, and I did. When John Elway refused to play for the Colts and ended up going to the Broncos in that trade that involved Chris Hinton and everybody else, the Raiders allegedly had a deal in place, and the commissioner nixed the deal, and the Broncos ended up winning the sweepstakes. John Elway could have been a Raider for all those years.
Isn't this similar to the Chris Paul to L.A. Lakers trade back when? And because I want to say the Hornets didn't have an owner at the time or something, and Commissioner David Stern, the late commissioner, was serving as their pseudo team owner. He nixed the trade. It was crazy.
All right, last but not least, what are we watching?
Task, HBO. It is phenomenal.
Ooh.
That's
on the watch list.
What have we heard about Chad Powers? Worth it?
I'm not really into those types of movies.
Mixed.
I don't know.
Mixed?
Yeah, I've heard it's fine because it's 30 minutes long, but it's not great. So I haven't watched it yet.
It feels
he
like
was
it
on
was
Manningcast the other night there. I was curious about that. Maddie has been on a Dancing with the Stars kick lately.
Oh, you going to take her? They're coming to town in Indy. Did you see that?
No.
February 25th,
they go on tour?
I guess. Yeah, the first time they're ever, it's like a 76-day
tour. Well, we need
tour.
Kevin Bowen up there
Old
dancing
National
with the
Center,
stars. You're a
February
star here in
25th.
Indianapolis.
Who needs Disney on Ice when you've got that?
Look at that. So
I want to
there
see
you go.
Kevin Bowen as a celebrity guest.
I don't know if they're outside of wrapping gifts. I don't think there's a thing I'm worse at than dancing.
Oh,
it might be worse than you.
Hey, I'm with
Mark
you on the
and I
wrapping
are
gifts.
Poor wrappers of gifts, right?
Oh, yeah. I try to do 3 tape, and it never works out.
Yeah.
I'm just whatever. Who
It
cares?
was Maddie's birthday the other day. I mean, you should have seen this rap job. I
hear you.
About as worse as
I feel like being in a
gift I got.
family of adults, since everybody in my family's grown, I'm a bad guy. I'll go get you a nice bag from the Dollar Tree and just throw it in there, and here you go.
I'm team bag, but I know Maddie wants the effort of wrapping the gift.
This is
that's
so
where I
true
go.
because my mom is like that. So everyone else can get the bag. My dad doesn't. This man, he told, don't ever waste your money on a card. He's going to read that, throw that in the trash, and move on. And he's not sentimental at all. So I didn't waste getting him a card. He just wants money in his hand come Christmas.
that works.
So it's literally the most not sentimental thing ever.
Here's the thing. We've learned a little hack at our house. We only buy greeting cards, Christmas cards, any kind of cards, birthday cards, anniversary, only at the dollar store now.
Well, yeah.
There's no point paying $6 for a card.
Yes.
There's never been a bigger crime committed in the Dykton household than when I threw away tissue paper that normally goes in the bag. Yeah. My mom's like, "Where's the tissue paper?" I'm like, "I threw it away." She's like, "You did what?" I'm like, "What? It's paper. No one. What is? Why do we?"
My mom recycled the tissue paper in the bags
and the ribbons.
Yep.
And the
bows,
ribbons.
all of it.
Yeah. All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk Indiana, Oregon. Zach Austerman stops by next. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning and welcome into the Fan Morning Show, along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton. I'm Jeff Rickard. The fan text line is up and running, 239-1070. A lot of folks chipping in today. We appreciate that. Paul the mailman says, Jeff, come on. I need you to say number 2 Oregon since they're number 2 in the coaches poll. So when IU wins, it'll sound better saying they beat the number 2 team in the country as they move up to number 2 in the rankings. They'd be the only team who could claim 2 top 10 victories if they get it done this weekend. Then he says, Salamat po, little Tagalog for thank you. Second ranked, third ranked, does it matter to you, Kevin?
I don't. So what, they're third in the AP poll?
Yeah, we use the AP poll when we talk about things, but second in the coaches poll.
Yeah.
They're a really good football team is what they are.
I don't care. It'd be the greatest win probably in program history, right?
It'd be bordering on that. We can ask our next guest about that. Zach Austerman covers the team. We talk to him every Wednesday here. We look forward to doing that. And he joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline to talk a little bit about number 7 Indiana taking on number 3 Oregon this weekend. Good morning, Zach. How are we doing this morning? Is this potentially the biggest game, biggest win in Indiana football history?
Yeah, if they win it, I think, yeah. I don't think the only other one that would compare would be the 67 bucket game, which obviously sent Indiana to the Rose Bowl. I think that's the only other, real comparison you'd be able to draw. If Indiana wins this game, obviously it puts them in pole position both for the playoffs and also for the Big Ten title game in Indianapolis. They would be able to afford a loss over their last 6 games if they won this one because they'd hold the tiebreaker over Oregon, and because Penn State, even if they lost to Penn State, would still have more conference losses now. But it would also, I think it's obvious to say this, but it would also carry, real sort of cultural significance, real sort of, intangible weight for a program that obviously hasn't, had a lot of moments on these stages. And certainly when it has, you think about last year, I think people point to the Michigan State game in '87, that the few times Indiana kind of has come to these junctures, especially in the regular season, it's come up second best. So, yeah, I think it would certainly be on the shortest list imaginable of best wins in program history.
Zach, when you look at the way this Indiana team has performed over the last couple of games that they played, obviously the beatdown of my alma mater, Illinois, and then finding a way to win, on the road against Iowa, how do you think this team has kind of evolved when it comes to, scratching and clawing and finding a way to, get a win, even if it might not be in the most, dominating fashion? When you look at teams that are really good, they win without their best stuff.
Yeah, and that's also just kind of what Iowa is at Kinnick.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I said this to somebody last week. Like, Iowa at Kinnick is maybe not schematically, but like philosophically, the closest thing the Big Ten has to the option anymore. Like, they drag you into their kind of game, and you have to beat them that way. But I think in general, in talking about how this team has evolved, I think, certainly Fernando Mendoza has gotten more settled in. Even that Iowa game when he said, hey, I kind of reverted to some bad habits there for a little while. I wasn't at my best. Listen, 233 and 2 touchdowns in a win on the road at Kinnick Stadium is still a pretty good day, historically in Big Ten football. I also think, like, if you look at this team, I think probably we talked about this on our podcast yesterday. I think maybe the piece of this that's been most impressive is Indiana's defense. That was the area that felt ripe for regression after last year. Indiana brought so many guys over from James Madison and really just kind of transplanted Bryant Haynes' scheme, his culture, his preferences, his emphases, and you lost a lot of that. If you're Indiana, you lost everyone along your defensive line except Mikel Kamara. You lost one of your 2 starting linebackers. You had to replace in the end, I think, 3 starters in the secondary. And yet I would argue there are ways in which Indiana has been better defensively. Certainly, if you take the competition into account, we spent a lot of the offseason talking about Indiana's non-conference schedule, but Indiana's probably played a better team in the non-conference this year in Old Dominion than anybody they played last year. And then certainly the two conference games they've played so far have been more difficult than probably any of the conference games they played last year up until the Michigan game. And so, for Indiana to be as good as it's been defensively, I looked this up yesterday. Indiana's allowed 3 red zone trips all year. Opponents through 5 games have gotten to the red zone 3 times against Indiana, and two of those red zone conversions were field goals. So Indiana's allowed 1 red zone touchdown all year. They are among the nation's leaders in turnover margin, tackles for loss, sacks. I mean, like the defensive sort of evolution, the defensive development from this group through a ton of personnel turnover has been really impressive, and it will be really important if Indiana is going to have a shot on Saturday.
So, voice of Zach Austerman, Mind Your Banners, the podcast Zach has. It's a great listen. Zach, as you look at or I guess here, I should say, Curt Cignetti this week in his press conference previewing the Oregon game, how would you compare, his bravado, his presence this week compared to maybe Ohio State or Notre Dame from last year?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't. I mean, he was pretty businesslike, which is typically when you can tell Cignetti thinks the opponent is very serious. And I mean, not that that's breaking news. It's the number 2 team in the country. Dan Lanning's lost 1 game at home in 3.5 years as Oregon's head coach. Whatever happened to Penn State the week after, we all know how difficult it is to win on a whiteout night game at in Beaver Stadium, and we saw what Oregon did there. I think also just in general, when you talk about bravado, Cignetti himself has said there were probably times last year when he was a little bit more bullish, a little bit more ambitious, and he said, I thought we needed that a year ago because a year ago we were still setting expectations. We were trying to get our fans to believe in this program's ability to be more than it had been in the past. We were trying to, kind of just build a level of sort of confidence and a level of belief. And, there was maybe a little bit of, have faith and faith will be given unto ye about what Cignetti was doing a year ago. But he said, I don't think we need that now. We know what we're capable of, from our players to our coaches to our athletics department to our university to our fan base. Everyone sees what we can do. Nobody needs to be told. So I think there's also an element of he just, you're not going to get some, and listen, we haven't, I've written about this, other people have written about this. We haven't gotten nearly the same number of those, Purdue sucks, Google me, all the, we're the emerging superpower in college football, all that stuff that he said a year ago. We really haven't gotten nearly as much of that this year. And I think it's just because Cignetti feels like, hey, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to put that act on because everybody's aware of what we're capable of. Everybody believes, look at our crowds, look at our atmospheres, look at our results. And so now it's just much more about behaving like a program that expects to be on these stages, in these games, and trying to win these games.
Zach Austerman here on the Payless Slickers hotline. He covers IU for the Indy Star. And Zach, maybe I'm reaching on this, but I'm sure it's probably a question that's been broached when it comes to Fernando Mendoza. But he did play at Oregon, meaning playing on the road at Oregon a few years ago. Does that, factor into maybe the comfortability or just knowing what to expect in an atmosphere like that?
I mean, I'm sure it can't hurt. Now, listen, I think Cal lost that game by 44 points.
They did. It was, so I left that part out.
Yeah. I'm guessing if Fernando Mendoza was here, he'd say, it doesn't count for too much. I got to go do it with this team, against this Oregon team, this week. And I got to put in a lot better performance. Obviously, Indiana now and Cal 2 years ago were kind of two very different programs. But it certainly can't hurt, just that at very least, you're aware, like he's been in it before. He's aware of what it looks like, what it sounds like. On the other hand, I'm guessing, obviously, I did not watch that game 2 years ago. Forgive me, but especially with media days this week, I'm probably not going to watch that game from 2 years ago. I'm guessing the atmosphere was not the same for that game that it will be for this one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so I don't think Fernando Mendoza is going to walk in there and think I'm going to win this game because I've played at Autzen Stadium before. But it certainly can't hurt that you've got somebody that can just, and he's not the only one, Jonathan Brady. I can't remember if Brady played in that game or not, but the other Cal transfer on the team. It certainly can't hurt if there are guys that are able to say, hey, here's what it looks like, here's what it feels like. Even stuff as small as, the field does this, or the sun, expect the sunlight to do this, or whatever. Like, it can't hurt. But I don't think anybody's going to look at it and say that's the difference between winning and losing.
Zach Austerman, Indy Star, Mind Your Banners podcast. Thanks, as always, for joining us on a Wednesday. Enjoy that trip up to Oregon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always.
You bet. Zach Austerman joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline right there. One thing will be interesting to see, we all know that Oregon has this long list of quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs that are now playing in the NFL. That defense is not bad this year. Not only are they averaging offensively over 500 yards a game, as is Indiana, but they're only giving up 123 yards a game passing right now through 5 games.
Yeah,
that's
of the best,
beastly.
Yeah, defenses in the country for sure.
And so something to keep an eye on there as Indiana comes off the win in a tough road environment. I know it was a close win, wasn't their best football, but they found a way to win in Kinnick, and that's not always easy to do, as you know, Kevin. You watched a lot of Big Ten football. It's a tough place to go.
The pink visiting locker room, right?
Yeah.
So they got there at Kinnick. We'll see about the weather. Again, a little bit, a couple days out to really probably have a close eye on it, but potentially some rain in the forecast. 12:30 local time kick. I would think that would be advantage. Don't know how much lube can get in the system for the Oregon fans.
Excuse me?
How much lube can get in the system for the Oregon fans?
Repeating it makes it better. Neil couldn't hang on, but he was calling about I Gotta Know, and he mentioned Josh Allen to the Colts as one move because he said Chris Ballard was supposedly high on Josh Allen back in the day. If they would have pulled the trigger on a Josh Allen, what would that have looked like in a Colts uniform?
In terms of drafting, I mean, with Andrew Luck on the team, they were going to draft him?
That's what he said. He said he remembers that they were high on him
some
point, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
like misremembering some things here.
I was like, I don't know if I recall that timeline.
I totally
but
follow that there.
I'm going to say that Jalen Hurts, rumors might have been a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I can't say I am.
Yeah, 2018. Isn't that the year that? No, was that the year he was out? Andrew Luck was out with the shoulder injury.
No, he was comeback player of the year in 2018.
Well, yeah, then, but either way, he was on the team. So
right.
yeah, all right.
Yes, would it be nice to have Josh Allen on the team? Of course. But
I think we need to be realistic with some of this stuff here. So that's why, yeah. Again, even the Paul George stuff, I'm a little like, well, I don't know.
Nothing quite like revisionist history. Everything works out well.
I wish Brett Favre was on the Colts.
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I don't know. Nothing good probably these days.
I was about to say, yeah.
Maybe hang out in an alley outside a bar, maybe.
It's all the GMs coming out after the Brady. Well, we wanted to take Brady, but we just had a few other positions that we felt like we needed to take.
You only passed on me like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Everybody did. Mark, I'm just curious, going back to You Gotta Know, are you pleasantly surprised by the Packers' success so far this year?
No.
Okay.
They tied with the Cowboys, who stink. They should have actually lost that game because Jordan Love managed the clock horribly. I will never give praise to the Packers, even if they go 16-17-0. They can stick it.
Packers suck.
They're just 2-1-1. I just want to get you ramped up there.
They suck.
That's all right. All right. Anything else you guys want to throw in on Indiana, Oregon before we move on to the check down? We good?
I'm ready to check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
That's right. Indiana, ranked number 7 in the AP poll, will be taking on the number 3 ranked Oregon Ducks. That will come your way Saturday afternoon right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. 3:30 kickoff, 2:30 airtime here with Don Fisher and the crew. And then later on that night, Purdue plays at Minnesota. That one starts at 7:30. Meanwhile, number 16 Notre Dame will be hosting North Carolina State. We got a number of texts of people, Notre Dame fans, that are fired up to watch that game this weekend, Kevin.
Going back to the Boilers, if you're going to sniff hitting that over-under, what was it, 3.5, I want to say, at the start of the year, these next 3 games, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers. If you can't get 1, if not 2 of those, then we're looking at a 2-3-1 season for Barry Odom.
All right. Moving on to the National Football League. The Colts back at practice today over at West 56th. They did sign a brand new field goal and place kicker yesterday, James Boyd. Tell me a little bit more about Michael Badgley.
Yeah, he previously played for the Colts back in 2021, I believe. Familiar face. The Money Badger, as they like to call him, has not played in an NFL game, I believe, since 2023. Missed all of last year due to a torn hamstring. So, he's a fine kicker. It's just when he gets to distance, 50 yards or more, I believe he's 5 of 13 in his career. Not a great number. And as Kevin alluded to earlier, will that make Shane Steichen even more aggressive when it comes to fourth downs in those potential conversions?
Yeah, to add a little bit more to that, I believe it's the second worst percentage out of about 50 kickers since he's entered the league from 50 plus. So that is the question mark. And again, I half jokingly, half serious, you're going to have warts on anybody you sign as a kicker mid-season. But the fact that he has already worked with Luke Rhodes and Rigoberto Sanchez and worked well with him in the 2021 season, I want to say it was like 18 to 20, 18 to 21. I mean, a very good percentage. Again, nothing too far from distance. I do think that is something that you like. And he's kicked well in playoff games, which, you look at the list of 8 guys yesterday that they tried out, not a lot of playoff kickers. For those that were curious, no Rodrigo Blankenship on the working out list.
All right. One programming note, by the way, WIBC is the home for Indiana football this weekend because the Pacers play their second preseason game against the Thunder that evening, and so we don't want overlapping there. So it'll be on WIBC 93.1. We'll have the Pacers last night, the Pacers preseason, 135-134 win in overtime against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They led by as many as 24 in the second half. Ray J. Dennis scored 16 points to lead the way for Indiana. Pascal Siakam had 14. Aaron Nesmith and Johnny Furphy had 12 points each. Again, they'll play the Thunder on Saturday night. Interesting to watch the first appearance of the 4 centers that we're looking at right now to try and figure out a way to replace Miles Turner right now, Kevin.
Yeah, I kind of liked what Jay Huff showed. I know he was the 3rd center to get in the game, but I was intrigued on both ends about what he showed. Isaiah Jackson did start, a little foul trouble for him. Tony Bradley was actually the 2nd center to get in the game. I thought Johnny Furphy had a moment or two in the second half. Talon Peter, the 2nd-round pick out of Liberty with all the eye-popping analytics. I kind of liked what I saw there. And again, the starting unit, I mean, they were up 8 at half over Minnesota's starting unit. So got to be pleased with that group.
Neil has chimed in, by the way. He said it was Justin Herbert, not Josh Allen. He got it mixed up.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
All right. The other thing about last night, DeLon Wright, man, he not only got a head-to-head vicious contact, but then he banged his head on the floor, falling down. He walked off the court, and he was bloody, and I don't know what that looked like, but it wasn't fun. I know that. That was the big takeaway for me last night.
Well, yeah, he was concussed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely not fun.
All right, so again, Saturday night against the Oklahoma City Thunder for them. Major League Baseball, 4 games today. Chicago Cubs try to keep their season alive when they play the Milwaukee Brewers. 5:08 first pitch. That one will be at Wrigley Field. Still time to get up there for you, Mark.
You going to pay for my ticket? It's not cheap to get in there.
I'm sure it's not.
Have you looked? What's a ticket for a playoff game going?
I know I'm not going, so I haven't looked, but I can look real quick. But I'm assuming it's going to cost a lot.
All right. Seattle Mariners will take on the Detroit Tigers. The Mariners took a 2-1 lead after a win last night. Another home run from Cal Raleigh. Phillies and Dodgers resume their series tonight. It's the late game at 9:08. Dodgers lead that one 2-0. And the Blue Jays and Yankees play Game 4 of their series beginning at 7:08, and the Jays leading that one 2-1. You've been marveling. We've all been marveling over that home run that Aaron Judge hit last night. Hit the foul pole. That thing was a rocket.
Quite the shot when they needed it the most. And thank you to this listener. We tried it earlier in the show. We tested out. Could we talk to Alexa? Chiming in here. One of the guys told Alexa to play Nuck If You Buck. He said my Alexa started playing it and then went to Lovers and Friends, Mark.
Nice.
I love that.
I like it a lot.
Oh, man. Yeah, the kids cannot be home for that.
Can we try that one more time? Alexa, play Nuck If You Buck.
That's awesome.
Getting that from YouTube.
Oh, man.
Can we get some Nuck If You Buck re-entry?
Oh, I already have it queued up. It's the next rejoiner.
Turn your bass up.
Mm-hmm. 129 gets you in the door if you need a single ticket for the Cubs and Brewers today.
Like standing up on top of the bleachers in the back there?
No, you're getting section 205. You're under the rafters. That's solid.
Okay. It's not bad.
I'll expect that Venmo shortly, Jeff.
You just keep waiting. Don't move till it comes, all right?
Okay.
All right. That's what's going off there. One big trade in the National Football League yesterday. Wanted to get you guys' thoughts on Joe Flacco. who will now be a member of the Cincinnati Bengals to try and keep their season alive until, hopefully for the Bengals later on in the season, Joe Burrow might get healthy.
The Bengals are dead. This is a dead team trying to resurrect somebody else who's already, playing kind of like a zombie. So, 2 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions on the season. I think it's a trade that sort of makes sense, but it's very, very desperate because, like I said, Joe Flacco, basically since he's not been a starter full-time with the Ravens years ago, whenever he's played an extended period of time, he's turned the ball over a lot. So you take the good with the bad and hope you can stay afloat, but I don't think that changes much for them at all, really.
I love it. I think it's entertaining as hell, and they weren't going anywhere, so what did they swap, a 5th for a 6th?
Yeah.
No idea if it's going to work out, but I just think it's fun.
Yeah, I don't mind the move. I just don't think it'll work at all.
And we'll see. If you can somehow get to 2 games within a playoff spot, and Joe Burrow comes back for the final 3 or 4, maybe you sneak in. So I respect it. Teams, I think a lot of times they just throw up the white flag a little bit early, and this is probably a little bit of Zach Taylor also saying here, being like, I need to try something, or else I might not be back here.
Yeah, Jake Browning was terrible, but their offensive line is also horrible. So you got a 40-year-old quarterback back there trying to, maneuver with that weak offensive line. Good luck.
Well, you're spinning the wheel. You're hoping that a guy who can at least read defenses might be able to figure out how to get the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, right? I mean, that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, Jake Browning did that last week, getting the ball to Jamar Chase. It's just that he gets the ball to the other team, too, which is basically what Joe Flacco does.
All right. Well, keep an eye on it. Coming up in a moment, we'll talk more about Pacers opening their preseason schedule last night, and also the Colts and what to look for as they get back on the practice field today. It's next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark, you've gotten a couple of texts giving you kudos for your playlist this morning.
This song rules. This song got it done.
Yes, I just remember all the big white tees and the shoulder swinging and everything like that. What a time. What a time to be alive.
I love it.
Crime Mob. You had wave your shirt around your head like a helicopter. That song was great.
Speaking of big white tees, remember when big shorts were a thing in college basketball? Like, I'm picturing right now, like, Robbie Hummel and Juwan Johnson wearing capris out there for Purdue.
Yeah.
And now we got none of it. Now it's like, now OG Anunoby's wearing short shorts,
yeah.
right?
It is funny to see that.
Didn't that kind of start with the Fab Five, the big baggy shorts?
Right. Well, then, I mean, I felt like it, again, for some reason, I'm picturing like Chris Kramer right now. I'm like, you could fit 3 kids in Chris Kramer's shorts for the Boilers.
That
right
is
now.
True. I remember Aaron Kraft. I don't know if they were like super baggy, but those were baggy.
Dallas Lauderdale for Ohio State.
You look at like the John Stockton nut huggers and then those things. You're like, we're in 2 different universes here. What
that is true.
We're in 2 different timelines.
So if you buy the shorts, they literally say nut huggers. Like,
I mean, did you see those things?
Yeah, back in the day, they wore them Magic era, John Stockton era. Yep.
So
high and tight, I would say, is what those plums were doing.
I got the baggiest of them all. Probably was Allen Iverson, right? He had a lot of on-court swagger, I felt like.
What was crazy about that Jazz team, and I covered them for 4 years of Stockton and Malone, was that, yes, John had the very tighty whiteys, we called them, and Karl Malone and Brian Russell, they had the big baggy things going on all at the same time. It was very, very odd to watch.
I miss those days. Now everybody's in like skinny jeans. I'm like, I can't roll with that. I'm not a skinny jean guy. Can't do it. Won't do it. I refuse.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I better not get you no skinny jeans.
No,
Ashley, I've never brought any of those home for you.
No, I don't think she wants to see that either. This caboose needs some air.
Where do I go from there, Kevin? Where do I go from this caboose needs some air?
You're our driver. You're our expert. You're our pro. You're going to get us back on track.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about what we did see last night from basketball. The Pacers with their first preseason game of the year against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think we were all kind of curious to see what it would look like at the center position. I guess the big takeaway for me is that, man, they couldn't miss, it seemed like, from three-point range in the first half. But, yeah, I saw some good things from, I think, Jay Huff. I don't know that past that, it was all anything to write home about for the center position, but that's going to be certainly an area of focus for this team in the first third of the season, I would think. How are they going to manage it?
Well, and how do you manage it in the preseason? You know, is this something where James Wiseman was the 4th center last night? Does he get a chance to be a little bit more, whatever, 1 or 2 at some point here? It does. I think it's probably fair to say Isaiah Jackson is viewed as the leader. You know, he was the starter with the Fan Jam group on Sunday. He was the starter last night. He did get into a little bit of foul trouble. And again, guarding...
That's kind of been his MO, too.
Right. Guarding Gobert, I get that that's a different... And they started Nasri, too, so they were big, the T-Wolves in the front court.
They got 3 big guys at one point, didn't they?
So when when he has to guard bigger guys, just his ability to stay out of foul trouble will be key. But, yeah, I mean, starting group, really good. I laughed a little bit inside. Like, the first possession of the game was one of those... near shot clock violation, grenade. I think Jackson actually got it kind of late clock, and I thought to myself, oh boy, is this how it's going to be? And then the offense flowed beautifully after that. And all the starters contributed really well. And they played Jarris Walker a lot. He was in there in overtime at the end of the game with a bunch of two-way guys.
Yeah, and then they really put it on Minnesota the first, 6 minutes or so of the third quarter. Started to build up a big lead, actually led by 24 at one point in time, and then all of a sudden couldn't make a basket to save their lives.
Yeah, that was some nasty basketball towards the end of that game. And I thought Ray J. Dennis was going to end it in regulation because he was making a lot of three-pointers late. But they went cold and then held on, in overtime. Like I said earlier in the show, I thought Enrique Freeman for a second there was going to get the last laugh against his former team. But, hey, a win is a win. And I think for your starters, your core guys, you feel good about, what they were able to do. And then from the injury point, you're a little concerned just because, T.J. McConnell grabbing at that hamstring, how long is he going to be out? And then DeLon Wright took a nasty hit to the head. He was concussed in that game, I'd imagine. So you're already down 2 more point guards after already being without Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, the other guy I was couldn't quite remember when I was talking about it the last hour, but L.S.A. Johnson, remember, he had spent some time as a Pacer several years ago as well. It was just kind of weird. A couple of times I saw 2 or 3 former Pacers out there, and I didn't even know some of them were still playing in the league. So that's where we're at. One game in the books for the preseason, and I guess we wait to find out how TJ McConnell's hamstring is going to be after that game last night. To me, that might be the biggest storyline moving forward from that first preseason game.
Oh, easily. Yeah. I mean, the biggest story from last night is TJ McConnell, asking out, going to the locker room right away, left hamstring. Does that become nagging? You need TJ McConnell to play a big role for you. I mean, he is your backup point guard. It goes without saying that McConnell is a guy that expends a ton of energy when he is on the floor. And so if he's not his potent picking up, and last night, ironically, he got hurt picking up Mike Conley full court. If he's not that, then he's not as effective as he normally is. So, that will be big, given his age and given the type of injury. And, I mean, you're still, 15 days away from the season opener, but still. By the way, shout out to TJ. Thank you, Nick. TJ Ford had the biggest shorts of all time. I'm picturing Texas TJ Ford, and I feel like he could have fit. It was PJ Tucker, his teammate at Tech. He could have fit PJ Tucker in his shorts. That's how big those things
Didn't
were.
he take those to Milwaukee? Was it Milwaukee he went to?
Oh, Pacer TJ Ford,
Yeah,
right?
Pacer TJ Ford, but wasn't he drafted originally by?
I don't know where,
Milwaukee,
but I know he's a Pacer.
They were basically pants.
They were.
I mean, they were.
How could that have been effective for them moving around?
That was a vibe for a while.
Robbie Hummel commented on it one of those games he did. Seemingly, Robbie Hummel does every Purdue and Indiana game, and I was dying laughing just hearing him describe him seeing pictures of his old self wearing those shorts.
I mean, they're literally like 2 inches from his socks. That's how long those shorts were.
By the way, feel bad for the Indiana fans. I saw tip times were announced for the Big Ten games this year. Indiana gets Purdue 9 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Oh, we're going to be burning the oil there that night.
That stinks.
Purdue gets IU 8 o'clock on a Friday. 8 o'clock on a Friday is like dream time.
Oh, absolutely.
9 o'clock on a Tuesday on the cock. That's on Peacock. Just brutal.
You're just trolling Mark at this point, aren't you? You're
Warts
just trolling
on the
Mark
butt
at this point.
Talking about Peacock.
I knew he had the sounder ready to go. 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. I feel like Indiana's got the short end of the stick with the Purdue games lately in terms of tip times.
Yeah.
Adam points out, and he might be right here, none were bigger than the Arkansas team that made that big run in the early 90s. I think that Corliss Williamson was on that team, wasn't he?
Is that 40 Minutes of Hell, Nolan Richardson?
I think so. I think that's what Adam's referring to, yeah. All right. Coming up in a moment, we will finish up the show strong. We'll talk a little bit more about what we might be watching on television tonight as far as sports are concerned. Take a few more of your comments at 239-1070 on the Fan text line. It's all straight ahead, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
9 o'clock on a Tuesday on the cock. That's on Peacock.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
God, this song also rules.
I agree.
Nothing looked harder than a Mark Dykton in like middle school, high school, running around the neighborhood with his shirt off, spinning around like his head like a helicopter.
Petey Pablo, what an artist!
I know. Flash in the pan, but it was a glorious
hey,
flash.
That's what I'm saying. There you go.
Hey, you take that flash. Some people never get the flash. You take that.
Easy now. If you do, you're usually reporting it to HR.
Is there anything that can be said that he cannot immediately twist into something?
I'm not saying anything that I'm just repeating. These are your words.
Yeah, that's how that's going. What are you going to be up to tonight? What are you watching on television this evening?
I'll give you one guess what I'm watching today, Jeff. What do you think I'm watching? One guess. I'll give you one.
The question is, will you be running around outside waving your T-shirt over your head like a helicopter?
Probably not, because we live near the school. That's probably frowned upon. But let's extend the season a little bit. Let's get a win. Let's move to Game 4. One game at a time, boys.
Final full slate of 4 games, I believe, of the season for Major League Baseball. We won't get this anymore. 308, 508, 708, 908. We won't get that at all here moving forward. Again, just a best of 5 with these series here. So that's what the Cubs and the Phillies got to try and do coming up tonight.
All right. We'll see if Kyle Schwarber, the former IU baseball player, can help the Phillies at least stay alive against the Dodgers tonight. It's going to be a late one. I don't know how much of that game I'm going to see tonight. I was up late last night watching Pacers. So we'll see. What will be on your television screen this evening? Is it going to be baseball or are you going to do some other things?
I don't know. I thought about going back and watching Notre Dame Boise State from the weekend.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll be into all of the baseball, but Yankees Blue Jays will probably have my interest for a little while in there.
James, where are you at?
Watching the WNBA Finals, trying to see if the Aces can take a 3-0 lead over the Phoenix Mercury. Like I said, a lot of Indiana connections in this series, and Jackie Young, I think, is making a case for Finals MVP, and that goes with saying that Asia Wilson's been great too, but Jackie has been brilliant through the first 2 games, and as I like to say all the time, she is Princeton's finest and the all-time leading scorer in Indiana high school basketball history. So I feel like whenever there's big basketball going on, whether it's college or professional, there's always some tie to the Hoosier State.
All right, let's check the text line before we get out of here today, 239-1070. Let you guys have some of the last words today. Mark, you had asked us all in your Gotta Know segment a little while ago if we could bring back any NFL uniform permanently from the throwbacks. Who would it be? A lot of people like this one, too. Jake says, speaking of uniforms, should the Pacers try to bring back the pinstripes for City Edition jerseys? What do you think the Pacers should do this year with that jersey?
I'd be all about the pinstripes.
I like the pinstripes.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you want to go back to the ABA days, if you want to make a little Nancy tribute, a little Nancy Leonard tribute there, I guess I should start this. Do we still do the City uniforms? I kind of forget.
Yeah.
We still do them?
Yeah, they do. So I would like to see them updated.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they just throw in random throwbacks here or there, but, we obviously have the in-season tournament, the different floors and things like that here. So, yeah, I'd be all about the pinstripes.
I do hope they keep the ones that they had last year, though. Those tournament ones. Those
like those.
I like those a lot.
And
those
correct me if I'm wrong,
colors.
isn't that what they wore during the playoffs?
Yeah.
Tyrese Halliburton clearly was a huge fan of them, and a lot of the Pacer players were. So
I was. Hand raised. Those are awesome.
I mean, NBA uniforms have now become like Oregon Duck uniforms from like a decade
different
ago.
every night.
Oregon would announce, what they were wearing each week, and it was different ones. It's kind of what the NBA has evolved into.
What did you guys think of those black uniforms on Monday night with the Dolphins?
Glorious. Those are also great. I like
those. Those. I didn't really like what the Bills rocked the other night on Sunday Night
No,
Football.
I didn't.
The Bills was like an AAU team to me. Like I see that. I feel like I would watch like kids playing that uniform.
Yeah, it was one of those uniforms that like they couldn't afford to get the real uniform, so that's what they settled on.
That's a good way to put it.
The old Buffalo Bills jerseys were like the red jerseys with like the plain buffalo on it.
Yeah.
Those are also sweet.
Are you
those
a fan of the red helmet too?
Yes. You
like that? Anonymous says, since you seem to be an Ozark fan, or all of you are Ozark fans, you should check out Black Rabbit on Netflix. Isn't that also a Jason Bateman? I think I saw a preview of that the other day.
I have no idea.
Yeah. What else do we have going on? Again, Aaron from Minnesota complimenting you, Mark. The playlist today, immaculate.
Thank you. That's what I aim to do every single day. Make you think of songs you haven't heard in a while.
The fact that we got two people that, and let's try it a third time. Third time's a charm. Alexa, play Knuck If You Buck. The fact that we were 2 for 2 on that earlier, and we might go 3 for 3. Mark, that's got to be a good omen for your Cubs.
That is. Well, let's hope so. Let's fly the W today, and let's play Knuck If You Buck if they win. Let's have a good day.
I will say, when we get back out to Colts practice later today, it'll be interesting to see who's out there. Alec Pierce is someone to keep an eye on just because of him missing the last 2 games due to a concussion. Is Kenny Moore the second back at practice? He's been out with an Achilles injury. Grover Stewart, biceps. How does he feel coming out of Sunday's game? Where is he at? So a lot on the injury front that we will have for you later today, and we'll definitely break it down tomorrow on the show.
And they practice, around noon today?
Yeah, a little after that. I think it's 2, I believe, is the start of practice time. So Shane Steichen will meet the media before that. And then it'll be later, but out in Arizona, where is Kyler Murray at? Is he definitely practicing today? And then, how effective is he come Sunday, assuming he plays with that foot injury? Because I would say Kyler Murray relegated to a pocket passer. That is music to the Colts' ears. He obviously can make some plays with his legs, so that could impact Lou Anarumo big time in terms of what your defensive game plan is. The Colts really, correct me if I'm wrong, James, they haven't really played. I guess Bo Nix could make some plays, Cam Ward a little bit, but they haven't really played. I mean, Kyler's probably the first runner, if you will, capable of
for sure
doing that. So that'll be a big storyline to watch outside of the Colts, specifically in their own injury report.
All right, so a lot to talk about when it comes to injuries tomorrow morning. We'll get the updates on that. In the meantime, Pacers are underway. We've been talking about it, but basketball season is already here. We've got college basketball coming in the next couple of weeks, and the preseason has started now for the NBA. And last night is our first chance to really look at the center position for the Pacers. And it was look, first half, starters came out. They started hitting a bunch of threes. They were moving with good pace. They had taken a halftime lead. Then the second unit comes in the second half, and they immediately get the lead to 24, and then it just got to be ugly basketball the last quarter and a half, I would say. They kind of pulled it out at the end for the overtime win, but that was, I'm not going to lie, that fourth quarter, maybe it's because it was late, but it was getting tough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the case. You're playing a bunch of guys who probably won't be in your rotation, but a win is a win, and I did like what I saw from that starting unit. You're concerned about TJ McConnell, DeLon Wright going forward, but your big guys, I thought, Andrew Nembhard looked like he was ready for an increased role. And then Pascal Siakam, probably don't give him his flowers enough, but that guy's a baller, and he looked like he picked it right where he left off last season.
And I still like that rotation. Look, we're always going to miss Halliburton. There's no question about that. He takes the team to a completely different level. But Nembhard, Mathurin, Nesmith, it's going to be fun to watch how they kind of do their thing this year.
A thunder Saturday nights inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. So it actually is a pretty loaded slate. And then the Spurs, I want to say they play the Spurs. Is it Monday at home? I mean, you could get a chance to watch Victor Wembanyama in preseason. That's a pretty nice ticket there.
Yeah, I've seen him play in person once, and geez,
because you only get him once, during regular season,
right,
of course. And
giant. Last
year it was in Paris, so something to look forward to.
All right, so that's what's going on tonight. Enjoy the rest of your day. It'll be Jake Query at noon, JMV at 3. We will see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. right here on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan, as we get you to ESPN Radio for a couple of hours before we do that. Have yourselves a great day.